Hello, friends, and welcome. My name's Popeye, and today we're playing some more Higurashi, Chapter 6, Tsumihoroboshi, or the Atonement Arc, the Atonement Chapter. Before we get things kicked off, I need to scold Samuses. Samuses, I literally had you open on Discord reading about how you won't give Raid Shadow Legends a chance for the second time. How are you doing? Stop that. Oh, that's actually a good angle for pointing at people. There we go. Yeah. So it makes the reflection off the screen makes my finger look very sunset. So can I match? There, I'm a sunset now. Boom. But yeah, before we get into it, this game has some pretty serious trigger warnings. Avier. Guys, I haven't even finished the trigger warning and I've got 2 subs. No hype trains. No more resubs. Actually not super bad. I will take that to mean it's going alright. Because if I've learned something when everyone's like, yeah, working with this isn't so bad, what they really mean is it's fantastic. Everything else I've worked with is absolute garbage. I will not take your... Oh, I guess Twitch takes your money and then it gives me some of it. Where were we? This game has some pretty serious trigger warnings. If any of these things is not for you, please by all means find somewhere else that is more comfortable for you this evening. This game includes themes such as death, murder, rape, torture, kidnapping, violence, gore, graphic descriptions of torture, murder, any of those things against a minor, someone who's under 18. In fact, almost the entire cast, apart from a couple of characters, are almost all entirely under 18. In fact, most of them are still not even into high school yet, still in elementary school. If any of those things is not for you, please by all means find some place that is more comfortable for you tonight. If you missed any of that and you want more clarification, please feel free to ask or look down below in the description where I have a list of trigger warnings that have happened in games I've played. Oh, and I guess we now have like sexual infidelity and I don't know, even they called it I think they called it a badger game. It's a type of trying to scam people out using means of marriage and sex and faking having children and stuff like that. All of that has and or will take place in this game. So with that out of the way, what happened last time? So basically at this point, most of the story is revolved around Rena. It started off with her going downtown in this tiny area, because her father wanted her to pick up a new suit he ordered. When she gets there, she finds out that the delivery truck has been delayed because of traffic. It'll be there in like an hour or two, so she decides, we'll go grab a cup of coffee, and wait for it rather than hiking back to town and coming back another day. While she's there, she enters this seedy-looking cafe, and she overhears, kind of at the back table, there's some thugs who are trying to bully some people that they've clearly lent money to at stupid high interest rates, and they've been able to pay back the principal but not the interest on it. And along with the thug is her father's girlfriend, and she finds out that her father's girlfriend, and the father's girlfriend's pimp, as we later find out, the thug, is Sadako's uncle, who in chapter 3 we beat the ever-loving snot out of. A+. If you needed one more reason to hate him, there it is. Um, so basically, they're yelling at these people because they haven't brought the interest, they've only brought the principal. And the thug leaves, and the father's girlfriend is like, hey, I'll cut you a deal. I will loan you the money to cover the interest today, and then you pay it back at another interest rate. So they're compounding interest in the worst way on the loan rather than on like money saved. And of course, rather than, going to prison because they technically had a legally binding contract, and like losing their house and everything, they agreed to take out these extra loans. And then they all leave. And as they're leaving, Shion comes in. Oh, the dog was coming in too. Hi, bud. Shion comes in with her handler, bodyguard, and Rena asks, like, hey, do you know those people who just left? And the bodyguard's like, yeah. And she insists, like, tell me who they are, what are they doing? And eventually she wears them down to be like, oh yeah, they're thugs, they're loan sharks, and they're scam artists. They'll do this thing where she'll get close to a dude with money and then squeeze all the money they can out with gifts and nice food and that kind of stuff, and then rob them blind. And we find out that Rena's father actually has a substantial amount of money, what would be equivalent to about $500,000 US in 1983. 83? I think it's 83. So a fairly large chunk of change, which was the settlement from the divorce from her mother, and that they're trying to take all this money. And what they're going to do is basically the thug is going to come in, catch them having sex, and be like, that's my wife. You knocked her up. You owe me restitution, or I'm going to beat the ever-loving snot out of you. So Rena goes home, sees that her father has redecorated the entire living room area, and then she thinks, this costs a lot of money. Has my father been spending this kind of money? Is my father the person they're trying to take the money from? So she goes up, finds his bank book, goes through it, confirms that her father's been spending a ton of money, and can see stuff like, oh, they went on a date on this day, and then he took out like $1,000 for this date, or $5,000. So this basically confirms it for her. Then the girlfriend wants to have a talk with her about the future between her and her father. And Rena's like, nope, she runs away. She goes to the dump site where she is right now, and the girlfriend follows her and basically is like, hey, I know you don't like me. Can we come to some kind of agreement? Like, I'll stay out of your hair, you stay out of mine, I can get you a nice allowance. And Rena's like, nope, I'm not doing that to my father. You stay away from us. And then the girlfriend starts to strangle Rena. Rena is able to stab her with a shard of glass and then beat her to death with a lead pipe. Stuffs her body in the fridge and then goes back home. The next day, actually, I don't even think it was the next day. I think it might be the same evening, or maybe it's the next evening. Very soon, the thug comes over, not knowing that the girlfriend's disappeared, but to do the, like, you're sleeping with my wife, you've knocked her up, blah, blah, blah. Only the girlfriend's not there. So Rena takes him outside and like, hey, she told me when he came over that, something's changed, she wants to talk with you. I'm just a kid, I don't know what's going on, but I can take you to where she is. So Rena takes the uncle over to the dump, this is at like midnight, 1 a.m., something like that. Pretends that her flashlight goes out, and then smashes his head open with a hatchet. Just like cleaves his head in two. If you watch the anime, it's a wonderful scene. It's probably one of the most graphic deaths in the entire series. That's not torture induced. And so then she hides both their bodies, she chops them up, and her plan is to take them to the mountains and bury them somewhere in the mountains. So then the next day at school, everyone wants to stay and have fun after school, and Rena's like, sorry, I have to go help my father with some chores, with some housework. Can't stay tonight. So the rest of them decide, hey, let's go to the dump and try and find something that Rena will like. And that takes us to this point where presumably they caught her with the chopped up bodies, and we've just finished her telling the story of all that just happened. So we're caught to the very beginning where they're all just kind of standing around the garbage dump. Wow, that was like a 7-minute summary. I felt like I didn't stop talking. So let me catch up with chat. API is in C. Yeah, I mean, C can be very reliable. It was, and I think still is, used by some people for speed, although I'm not sure how many things would still be used with it. But yeah, C is old, but there's some pretty good things that were in C. But yeah, so that was the end of Rena's tale. And now we're caught up with where we were at the very start. We did our flashback, and now we're going to see what everyone thinks of the fact that Rena just murdered 2 people and stuffed their bodies in a fridge and chopped them up. Rena finished making her confession. There was no applause or curtain call. It was a quiet and lonely stage that Rena performed on. I think I'd forgotten to blink since her confession started. Everybody else seemed to be feeling the same way. Rena looked at us, like she was a teacher waiting for questions from her students. We noticed she was imitating what Chie-sensei does at the end of class. We all smiled bitterly. Yeah, the quality of life in it's not the best.
絶対見つからない場所に隠そうと思うとなかなかいい場所が見つからないの。自分の家の庭に埋める方がむしろ安心じゃないかななんて考え。でもそれじゃあやっぱり危ないよね。お父さんが突然家庭菜園をやりたいなんて言い出すかもしれないもん。やっぱり遠くの山奥がいい。あの女をたとえ死んだ後でもお父さんに近づけたくなかったし。
Felt like I did something very bad. Rena's plan was going smoothly. If only I'd hunted for the mahjong tiles, but I've been insisting on doing something else, this wouldn't have happened. When I looked at the others, they all seemed to be regretting their actions too. Mion hadn't come up with the idea to play at the garbage dump. If Sadako hadn't found the broken refrigerator, if Rika-chan had convinced us not to go, Rena could have had a few more days and she could have gotten rid of these trash bags and they never would have been found. And what would have happened next? Nothing. Everything would have remained the same. We kept having happy and peaceful days. Rena had been through a hard time and she'd been forcing her face into a smile for us. The fake smile was supposed to become a real smile one day. None of us were supposed to notice that Rena was going through a hard time. After a while, Rena was supposed to be able to forget the bitter memories of killing these 2. She was supposed to live as if nothing had happened. But now all of her effort, all her courage had been ruined.
人殺しはいけないことだってことは私だって知ってるよ。したくなんかなかったし、これからだってしたくないと思ってる。でもね、これが最善の努力だったって信じてるし、私は悪いことをしたなんてこれっぽっちも思ってない。私は幸せで平穏な生活を取り戻すために神様から与えられた等しいチャンスの中で最大限に努力しただけ。製品であれば不幸せでもいいなんてのは満たされた人間の綺麗事だよ。その精一杯は世界中の誰にだってけなせない。むしろ私を褒めてほしいくらい、称えてほしいくらい。竜宮レナは自らの運命と戦った。そして打ち勝った。
I don't know if I've said this on stream before, Samus says, but I was at a convention once where we were all like presenting, it was basically a presentation of thesis projects from all the universities in the area. And, they had, professors from schools and stuff coming around. And there was one group of professors who came around and, they were asking, about the project and then just, asking about background. And, he asked, well, what programming languages have you worked in? And I've worked in many, probably between like languages and frameworks, I'm probably like 30 to 40 at this point. But one of them I'd worked in was Turbo Pascal, and he was like, people still teach that? I still use Pascal for like all of my work, and this wasn't super long ago. This was, when would this have been? 6 or 7 years ago at this point. So that'd be 2015. Yeah, I had in grade 11, grade 11? No, grade 12. I had a teacher who taught in Turbo Pascal, but this professor was just still using vanilla Pascal. I don't know why I did it, but I interrupted her. I shouldn't have. I thought I needed to tell her this, so I did.
どうして俺たちに相談してくれなかったんだよ。
相談？
そうだよ。俺たちは仲間だろ。仲間ってのは何があっても無条件で味方になってくれる家族同然の存在じゃないのかよ。俺たちに相談してくれれば何かの力になれたかもしれない。
Okay, I'm trying to think. So this song playing in the background is actually the first variation of this song that they've played. I'm trying to place what it is in my head, because I know I've heard it. I can't come up with it right now. But I think this is the first variation they've played.
そうすれば、レナは自分の手を汚さずに済んだかもしれない。
With mouse support, very slow. Yeah, for mouse support stuff, I don't know what you're doing with it, because I've got one of these mice that has like the side buttons, and it was super annoying to me because they were programmed by default to be back a page and forward a page when you're in a browser, and I would just like accidentally bump them. So I use something called X mouse control. And what you can do is you can use it to remap all the buttons on your mouse to do something else. So I just remapped these two buttons to be null. So that every time I press them, it doesn't do anything by mistake. Oh, half a second? Yeah, that's too long. What Rena told us made me sad. Couldn't help myself from saying that to her. You have a programmable mouse? So what's that like? It's been a long time since I programmed these two buttons. Programmed, air quotes. I don't really remember what it was, so it was probably a very simple UI. I think all it did was register your mouse, tell you what buttons you had available, and then you could remap them, and I think that was it. And I just remapped them to, instead of being whatever it was, forward and back, to just be nothing. It's done, and I haven't had that problem since. Rena told us straight that she did the best she could. She told us that right to our faces. It's the same thing as saying that she didn't need us in order to do the best she could.
ケイちゃん、今はそんなこと言っても。
いや、頼む。言わせてくれ。喜びだって苦しみだって分け合うのが俺は仲間だって思ってる。だからレナが相談してくれたらきっと今よりもより良い未来へたどり着けていたと信じてる。
今よりより良い未来？そんなのないよ。これが最善の未来だよ。
嘘だな。
My shout seemed to scare her a little. I knew that Rena didn't believe that this was the best possible future. She just didn't have any other choice. If she had other choices, she definitely wouldn't have chosen this
だって
one.
その証拠に レナはさっきから泣いてるじゃないか。
はあ？誰が？私が？いつ涙を流したの？
今だよ。ずっと流してるじゃないか。自分で分かってないのか？
In fact, I didn't see any tears in her eyes, or on her face at all. That didn't mean she wasn't crying. Rena was crying. She was crying because she was driven into a corner after all the hard work she did to become happy. Her tears looked so sad. Anyone who couldn't see those tears wasn't really thinking about
私は
her.
泣かないよ。誰が泣くものか。私は正しいことをした。最善の選択をした。それでどうして泣かなくちゃならないの？ケイイチのバカバカ、何を言ってるか全然わかんないや。
それが泣いてるって言ってんだよ。
Rena stopped laughing all of a sudden, and she spoke with a cold expression on her face.
じゃあいいよ。ケイイチくんの言った通りにしたとしてみよう。私がみんなにお父さんとあの女のことを打ち明けた。さあ、どうしてくれるの？
まずは、
まずは何？
Rena had never talked to me like this before. It was as if she was mocking my ignorance. That made me shut my mouth.
ケイイチくんは去年を知らないんだよ。
去年。
そう。去年。昭和57年6月。
There we go. That confirms that it's June 1983. I always forget the exact year.
人を殺めることでしか抜けられない不幸の迷宮に閉じ込められた人のお話を。
Sadako gasped.
ケイイチくんはあまり知らないよね。北条聡くんのことは。
I know that he's Sadako's older brother. He's been missing, but people say he transferred. There's a rumor that he killed his aunt for Sadako's sake. Therefore, it's been taboo to talk about Satoshi-kun in my class, actually in all of
サトシ
Hinamizawa.
くんもね、私と同じだった。ただ幸せで平穏な日々が欲しかっただけ。妹と静かに暮らせる生活が欲しかっただけ。ケイイチくんも去年殺されたさとこちゃんのおばさんがどういう人だったかは噂聞いてるよね。
What I've heard is true. This is what happened. After Sadako lost her parents, her uncle and aunt got custody of her and her brother. They were miserable people. Her aunt was especially cruel to Sadako. Satoshi was the kind of guy who wouldn't even hurt a fly. But his aunt was probably the only one whom he didn't have a problem killing. That's how terrible a person she was.
北条家のトラブルはね、Hinamizawaでは誰もが知っていたんだよ。おばさんがヒステリックで誰彼関係なく食ってかかることも、サトシくんとサトコちゃんを意味もなくいじめていたことも全部ね。もちろんクラスの誰もが知っていた。御三家の当主跡継ぎであるみーちゃんとリカちゃんだってもちろん知ってたし、サトコちゃんに至っては当事者だもんね。ケイイチくんの言う仲間たちはHinamizawaの誰よりもよくサトシくんの辛さを分かっていたはずなんだよ。それで結果はどうだった？誰かがサトシくんを助けてくれた？誰も助けなかった。みーちゃんは一番力があるくせに村のしがらみがどうとかよくわからない理由で煙に巻いて、結局無責任な同情の言葉をかけて傷つけるだけだった。
そんなことはないよ。
嘘だ。サトシくんは分かってたよ。みーちゃんが口ぶりだけは同情してるふりをしながらも、だからサトシくんはね、途中からみーちゃんのことを嫌うようになったんだよ。普段は仲間だとか友達だとか言っておきながら、結局は北条家をいじめる園崎家の一味でしかなかったってね。
私は別に。
何も救わずに放置した。サトシくんの助けてほしい思いを同情という言葉で拒絶したんだ。それがどれほどサトシくんを傷つけたか分かってる？
Neon tried to find something to say, but failed to do so. She bit her
そ
lip
れはリカ
instead.
ちゃんも同じだよね。
Now Rena was pointing fingers at Rika-chan. Unlike Mion, Rika-chan looked emotionless and empty, just like Rena did.
リカちゃんは確かにミーちゃんに比べたらその発言力は微々たるものかもしれない。でも神社に出入りしてるお年寄りたちにとても大きな発言力を持っていたはずだよ。リカちゃんにもできる努力があったのにしなかった。リカちゃんも結局はミーちゃんと同じ。哀れみの表情を浮かべて小娘を装っただけだった。するのはサトシ君やサトコちゃんを慰めるだけ。その根本原因に対して何の手も差し伸べようとしなかった。そんな無慈悲な哀れみがどれほど残酷だったか想像できる？サトシ君が欲しかったのは救いだった。誰かに助けて欲しかった。自分の力だけではどうしても抜け出せない苦境だったから。首まで沈もうとする沼の中で精一杯手を伸ばして誰かに掴んでもらうことを期待していたんだよ。そうね。
Rika-chan's voice sounded mature. It was very different from how she usually
サトシ
sounded.
たちを救う方法がわからなかったから慰めることしかしなかった。それにかまけ救う何かを探し続けなかった罪は分かってるじゃない。
Rena gave her a twisted smile. That ugliness caused me to look away.
そしてサトコちゃんあなたに信じられるかわからないけれどあなたの罪はとても重い。
Didn't understand why she was blaming Sadako. I tried to take her side, but I gasped in surprise when I looked at her. She looked like she was accepting the sin that Rena had mentioned. Sadako must have wanted to confess her sin before Rena pointed it out to her. And so Sadako opened her mouth
信じて
first.
くださるかどうかはわかりませんけどちゃんと気づいてますのよ。
Have to Okay, I just wanted to see how because the eyes are different in
そ
that.
の罪そうなんだ。ニーニーがいなくなってしまったあの夜に気づきましたのよ。それをどうしてニーニーがいるうちに気づけなかったのか。わかるよその気持ち。後悔した時にはもう遅いというのは私も同じだったから。だから私は同じことがもう一度起こったから今度は戦った。さとこちゃんのその罪はきっと将来あがなえるよ。その罪に気づけたならきっとね。それでももうニーニーは帰ってきませんのね。
Sadako looked down sadly. Usually Sadako would say the opposite. She always said that Satoshi was coming back one day, without a doubt. But now, she accepted the fact that he would never return. She accepted it easily, as if she knew it already, because he's her brother.
ね。
She asked me, all of a
こ
sudden.
れが私と同じ苦境にいた昭和57年のみんな。サトシ君は自分を助けてくれそうな人たちにはみんなに全てを話したよ。助けてほしいと言ったし辛いとも言った。打ち明けた、相談した。転校してきたばかりの私にまでね。それはみっともないことじゃない。本当に不幸な人はね必死なんだよ。サトシ君は自分でも懸命に頑張ってた。それでもどうにもならないからみんなに助けを求めた。ずっと求めてた。でもねこれが圭一君の言う無条件で味方になってくれる仲間たちの体たらくなんだよ。仲間なんて楽しくてどうでもいい時間を一緒に寄り合って過ごすだけのお友達。本当に辛い時に味方になってなんてくれないんだよ。昔からそうだったよ。引っ越し先でもそうだったからね。だから私自分がサトシ君と同じ状況になったと知った時私は仲間に打ち明けるのなんかやめようってね。だってどうせ誰も助けてくれないし助けられないものなら同情なんて気がめいるだけなんだよ。せめて学校にいる間くらい楽しく過ごした方が気が紛れていいかもしれないもの。 実際みんなと楽しく過ごす学校の時間は楽しかったよ。とっても幸せだった。あの女たちとのトラブルをわずかの時間でも忘れることができて、サトシ君もそれに気づけていたらよかったね。
I don't know if I've ever heard this version of it. A very slow, somber feel. It sounds like it's played on a high woodwind. Kind of offbeat.
そうだったなら学校での時間くらいは楽しく過ごせて、あそこまで心を追い詰めずに済んだかもしれない。どうせ自らの手でおばを殴り殺す以外に解決方法はなかったのだし。転校してきたばかりで村のこともほとんど覚えていない私には、サトシ君をどう助けてあげればいいかわからなかった。できるのは話を聞いてあげて、少しでも心を軽くしてあげるだけ。でもそれ以上に助けることができたのかもしれないし、私もその努力を怠っていたかもしれない。それなのに昭和57年の私はサトシ君と仲間のつもりだったんだよね。
Rena's self-derisive laugh changed into grievous sobs. Her tears gradually wore away at our relationship of trust. Nobody will help me. Friends are just people whom you have fun with. You can't trust them. The more Rena cried, the clearer we heard her voice in our heart. Mion, Sadako, and Rika-chan looked into the distance with sad expressions on their faces. I was the only one who could say anything back to her now. I had to tell her this, and she knew it too. She just needed to hear it from someone. I braced myself to tell her something that might hurt everybody.
よくわかったぜ、レナ。昭和57年のことはよくわかった。こいつらが白状だったってこともわかったさ。でもよ、サトコだって言ったろ。こいつらはみんな自分の罪に気がついた。後悔した。だから今度は違うはずだ。今度は仲間の苦しみを真に理解して助けてくれるはずなんだ。
去年いなかった人に言われても信憑性ないね。
ああ、そうだ。俺は去年いなかった。だから残念だぜ。去年の俺がもしここにいたならば、サトシのために絶対に戦った。
嘘だ。
嘘じゃねえ。俺はHinamizawaに来てからどれだけ仲間がかけがえのないものかを知った。
I remember the last time I've seen her with creepy eyes. But we have to let the... this one's still the best.
サトコやサトシをいじめるおばがそんなにもうぜえやつなら、サトシになんかもったいねえ。この俺が叩き殺してやった。ものの1500秒でだ。躊躇なんかしねえぞ。速攻だ。学校の倉庫あたりから金属バットの一本もちょろまかして。
口先だけならどうとでも言えるね。人を殺すのにどれだけの思い切りがいるかもしれないくせに。
It was good. Yeah, I mean, work was decent for once. I mean, it's actually been decent for a bit. That's mainly because the project that I've been on that's been causing so much trouble. I wasn't actually supposed to be on this year. I was moved off of it in like the fall in September, and I kept getting dragged back into it because it's client has unrealistic expectations and tight deadlines and stuff, so I kept getting brought back into it. But I haven't been brought back into it much this week other than to like export some stats that only took like an hour or two tops. So that's been good. It's let me focus on what I've actually been working on with this other project. Yeah. I don't like the feeling of dividing my attention between two things and feeling like I get neither done. Yeah. But that's how my day has been.
知らねえし知る必要もねえな。仲間を救う以上の義務がどこにあるってんだ。
圭一君は全然分かってない。人を殺すことがどれだけ汚らわしい行為で、どれだけ自らを美化しようとも決して振り払えない汚れであることを分かってない。
そうだな。確かに仲間を救うためでも直ちに人殺しってのは短絡的すぎるよな。レナの言い分に相反するようで悪いけど、悪いことに悪いことで立ち向かうってのは多分うまくいかないようにできていると思うんだ。仲間のためなら人殺しだって厭わないその精神だけは立派だと思う。だけどな、悪いことで得た平穏ってのは絶対に長く続いたりしないんだ。それを人は本能的に知ってるから悪いことを嫌うんじゃないかと思うんだ。
何それ。圭一君が何を口走ってるのかよくわかんないよ。
You didn't have to tell me that. I was aware I wasn't making any sense. But, for some reason, I could easily imagine a world like that. A world in which I save my precious friends by committing an evil act. The peace I seized by doing that evil deed didn't last long. It got worse. Ended in a way as terrible as the sin I committed. This was a memory that shouldn't exist. I don't know why. I know for a fact that it happened. In that world of possibility.
すまん。俺も自分で何を言ってるのか。
He's of course talking about chapter 3. For some weird reason, I couldn't prevent myself from smiling in embarrassment, even in a situation like this.
レナは分かってるはずだ。だから、自らの手を汚すほかなかった運命を。助けて欲しかった俺たちを嘆いてるんじゃないか。
Chapter 3 isn't real, uncles aren't real, they can't hurt us.
レナは殺人者になんかなりたくなかったんだ。これが最善の選択だったなんて絶対嘘なんだ。だからさっきからずっと泣き続けているんじゃないか。
そうだ嘘だ嘘だ嘘だ、そんなのは嘘だ。
嘘かどうかはお前が一番知ってるんじゃねえか。最初から後悔してるんだろ。たとえ誰にも知られることなく死体を隠せたとしたって一生両手についた血は落とせないんだ。
I did see the Nintendo Direct came out. I haven't looked at a full summary. I did read a small summary that I believe Zero Confidence put in one of the channels I'm in. Let me see if I can find it. I know that there was some Metroid news that came out. Geez, where did he put that? Put it in gaming, maybe? Here is the list of things that made it. I have no idea how much changes each of these happen, but here's the list I have. Fire Emblem Dynasty Warriors, Mario Strikers, Splatoon 3, Front Mission 1 and 2 Remake, Disney Mario Kart, Remaster of Chrono Cross, that one I'm interested in, a new Kirby, all Kingdom Hearts games on the cloud, Klonoa, Portal, Live Alive, I'm not sure what that is, a new Wii Sports, Taiko Drums, Triangle Strategy, Cuphead DLC, Metroid Dread Update, Earthbound and Earthbound Beginnings now on the online store, Mario Kart 8, paid DLC, and a season pass, Tokyo Blur. Oh, Xenoblade 3, that one I'm excited for. That's probably the one I'm most excited for. Chrono Cross is like a nice to look at. It's one I've never played but I've been interested in. Xenoblade 3 I'm getting like no questions asked.
そ そんな十字架を背負って生きていく苦痛をどうやってごまかす？一つしかない。
All I can say is I hope it was better than their Torna Golden County DLC. No, DLC. It was like a full-fledged game.
これしか方法がなかったと思い込むことだけじゃないか。それはつまり仲間に相談する価値がないって思うこと、仲間を一生否定し
Yes, I do plan on reading just like a summary
レナにと
after.
って俺たちはその程度の存在だったのか？違うだろう。本当に助け合える関係なのが仲間だってことを一番最初から信じてたんだろう。確かに去年の仲間たちはまだ未熟だった。だからサトシを不幸な運命から救えなかった。でも人は成長するんだ。ミスは二度と犯さないし、後悔は二度と繰り返さない。
I take it that means that the Metroid update, it was nothing special then?
だから信じろ。
So that's the only thing I saw that I knew would catch your eye.
俺たちは仲間だ。お前の一番の味方なんだ。
つまりそれは私も未熟だったってこと？
そうだ。仲間たちが日々成長していることを信じられなかったレナも未熟だ。だがそれを責める気はないぜ。俺たちだってレナが一人悩むのを今日まで気づけなかった。人は語り合うことでしか胸の内を明かせない。だから今日のこの場までは仕方がなかったことかもしれない。そういう意味では言いたくはないが、今日という日がレナにとって最善の選択の向こうにあったことを認めざるを得ないかもしれない。
So piece that they should have, and then two things that don't make sense. Got it.
でも俺たちは今この場になってようやく胸の内を全て語り合った。レナが去年からずっと持っていた不信感も俺たちが持っていた後悔も全部吐き出し合った。だから俺たちは今こそようやく本当の意味での仲間になれたんだよ。
本当に今更だね。いつも罪は手遅れになってから気づかされる。
そうでもねえさ。例えば俺は仲間であるレナの今回のこの出来事を理解できる。
理解できるって？
人の命を奪うのは許されることじゃないっていう道徳的なことはもちろん理解している。でもそれを理解した上で仲間であるレナがこうするほかなかったことを理解する。だから俺
And
は
still no
レ
Prime
ナを汚
4.
らわしいと思わないし恐ろしいとも思わない。次に同じようなことがあったら今度はこういう結果にならないように悩み合おう。だけどすでに起こってしまったこの出来事を俺は理解する。理解ってのはつまり許すということだ。俺はレナのこの行為を否定したりしない。
I said that to everybody this time. Said to all my
俺は
friends.
レナのやったこの出来事を受け入れる。これしかどうしようもなくて悩み抜いた上で至った最後の最後の手段だったってことを受け入れる。だから俺はレナに協力しようと思う。
ケイちゃん、
もちろん殺した理由が金目当てだとかそんなくだらねえのだったら警察へ叩き出してやってるぜ。だけどな、レナはそんな気持ちでやったんじゃない。どうしても逃げられなくて悩み抜いた末に至った今日なんだ。レナの罪はそこに至るまでに俺たちに相談しなかったことを。だけどそれを俺は許す。だから今日に至ったその行為も俺は許す。
圭一、
だからみんなもレナも今日に至るまでそれに気づけずレナを一人で悩ませた俺を許してくれ。それが今日を招いた俺の罪だ。
圭一さん、
このヤバい袋の山を知ったのは俺たちだけだ。俺たち全員が秘密にすればそれでおしまいだ。 レナは何も気にすることはない。最初の予定通りにこの袋をどこかに隠しちまおうぜ。そして全員で塩でお清めでもして一丁上がりだ。そしたら俺たちは全ての罪を許し合おう。そして取り戻そうぜ、本当に平穏な日々を。これだろう。レナが本当に選びたかった未来ってやつはこっちなんだろう。最善の選択肢は。
圭一くん。
I jumped on the hood of the abandoned car Rena was standing on and reached for her
認めろ。
hands.
こっちが本当にレナが来たかった世界なんだよ。レナが本当に選びたかった選択肢なんだよ。確かにこの選択肢はレナ一人だけじゃ選べない。レナと俺たちが互いに手を差し伸べ合ってしか選べないんだ。つまり俺だけが差し伸べても意味がないんだよ。俺だけじゃない、みんなが差し伸べる。だからレナ、お前も手を伸ばせ。それで互いに手をつかみ合って初めてお前は本当に選びたかった選択肢の向こうの世界に行けるんだよ。
圭一くんの言葉は本当なら嬉しいよ。でもみんなもそうだとは限らないよ。
A little hand touched mine. It was
リカ
Rika-chan.
ちゃん。
レナは決して汚れてなんかいない。あなたは決して屈しなかった。そしてこんなにも泥だらけになりながら、そんなあなたをどうして私は認めずにいられるのか。
Rika-chan's small hand was strong and she spoke
私
eloquently.
は逃れられない不幸の迷宮に飲まれ、すべてに失望する堕落の心地よさを知っている。だからこそたった一人で屈することなく戦い続け、今日そんなあなたが身近にいることを誇りに思おう。私も圭一と同じあなたの罪を許す。だからあなたも私の罪を許してほしい。
リカちゃん。
私は無力な小娘だけれど、きっと戦えた。自分も運命に屈しないレナのように戦う。だから私をあなたの仲間として許してもらいたい。
Rika-chan usually acts childish, but now she was like a totally different person. She meant every word she was saying. And then another little hand reached out to ours.
サトコ。
Sadako put her hand over mine and Rika-chan's. She didn't say anything, looking down for a while. Rika-chan urged her to speak.
私もリカも両親を失って一人ぼっちですけれど、今日までそれを嘆いたことはありませんでしたよ。皆さんという仲間という家族がいたから。私はこれからも皆さんとレナさんと仲間という名の家族でありたいと思っていますのよ。家族同士だからこそ時には全てを打ち明け合うのは当然ですわ。だから今日はいいきっかけになったと思ってますの。互いの罪を許し合う機会が恵まれたことに感謝いたしましたよ。
仲間という名の家族か。サトコにしちゃいい例えだな。
レナさんの罪を許しますわ。どうか私の罪も許してくださいませ。
A big hand reached out for ours. It was Mion's.
仲間の大切さを語るのは部長であ
I
る
think this is the
私の
first time
役
we've
目
ever
だと
had
思ってただけ
three
に、
people like large close to the screen
私
at
も部
once.
長失格かなーなんて。
Because it's not really well suited to the format of the game.
ミオ、
ごめん、ふざけたね。
Mion still smiled and scratched her head.
レナの境遇を察しなかったことを仲間として部長として恥じるよ。許してほしい。もちろんレナが私たちに相談しなかったことも許すよ。それは私が打ち明けるに足る存在じゃなかったってことだからね。私はリーダーであらねばと日々努力しているはずなのに、 全然至ってなかった。その未熟さは私の責任だから、レナの罪を許す。
レナ、俺たちは
Are we gonna have 4?
全員手を重ねて差し伸べたぞ。こっちは全部揃った。あとはお前だけなんだ。手を伸ばせ。こっちへ来い。お前が本当に来たかった世界はこっちなんだ。もう手は全員が差し伸べてる。あとはレナだけなんだ。だからためらうな。
レナは人殺しだよ。
This is actually a really strong move of having her not appear right in front, but having her appear still far away, making it clear that she's still removed from the group at this point in time.
きっとみんなに迷惑をかけるよ。
レナ、私たちは。
リカちゃん、もう余計なことは言わなくていい。俺たちは全員で手を重ねて差し伸べている。この事実にこれ以上上塗りする言葉は何も必要ない。だからレナにだって言葉はいらないんだ。ただ黙ってこっちへ手を伸ばせばいいんだ。来いレナ。夢とか幻とかじゃない。ましてや手遅れでも何でもない。レナにはまだ選べる選択肢が残ってるんだ。だから選べ。間に合う。来るんだ。俺たちはやり直せるんだ。
Rena slowly reached out, and her hand touched ours. She didn't hold our hands. All she needed to do was to touch our hands to show us her will. Rena chose to live, share her life with her friends, rather than to refuse them for the rest of her life. I took a step closer to her and firmly grabbed her wrist. It was getting dark, and some stars had appeared in the sky. We all forgave each other for our sins for the first time. It was a little embarrassing, but Rena's tears made us all cry. We just kept crying together. We stood in a circle, holding each other by the shoulder and putting our heads together in the middle. We were a family made of friends. We forgave each other, and we were happy together. There's a memory in the back of my mind, but it's not supposed to exist. I tried to save one of my friends in that world. In order to do that, I rejected all of my other friends. I acted recklessly, alone. I brought it at the end of the world. The situation we had here is the same as that incident in that faraway world, in the sense that people have been deprived of their lives in order to save one friend of mine. But other than that, it was different. We have Rena, Mion, Sadako, Rika-chan, and myself. Nobody was missing. We were going to regain them. We were going to regain those happy and peaceful days. The road going there might be a little rough, but we'll walk it together. We all will. We went to the place in the mountains of Yaguchi that Ren had picked for burying the bags. Burying corpses is a scary thing to do, but it made us united more strongly because of that. Since each part of the corpse is in a separate plastic trash bag, you can tell what's inside each bag by touching it. First, we forced ourselves to laugh whenever we had to touch the bodies, because we were scared. After a while, we got used to it, to the point where we could make jokes about it. Of course, all of that was probably a bluff. We all tried our best. Mion somehow had detailed knowledge of how to hide corpses, and she told me to dig the hole deeper. It's not creepy. Rika-chan helped carry the bags. Sadako used her talent of setting traps to perfectly camouflage the place where we buried the bags. Me? I was in charge of digging the hole. Rena dug it earlier, but I made it a little deeper. After we finished all that, we walked back to the place where we parked our bicycles. We looked back at the place where we buried the bags. It's completely unnoticeable. We'd never be able to find the place again once we left for home. That's how perfect it looked.
よっしゃ、みんなお疲れさん。これでおしまいだね。帰ろ帰ろ。
Mion said it cheerfully, as if we just finished club activities or something. We had no more bags to carry. We no longer had any burden to carry either. We got on our bicycles, but Rena was still standing there looking into the
Oi, Rena.
distance.
あ、ごめん。ちょっと熱が出ちゃったみたいで、なんかぼーっとする。
Rena's face looked slightly red. Leon touched Rena's forehead. It actually was a little warm. She had a tough day today. She had to go through so many things. She had to find a place to hide the corpses. She had to dig a hole. We caught her with the bags. We talked about our feelings. We forgave each other. She must be exhausted after a day like
レ
that.
ナ、今日は帰ったらゆっくり休め。
うん、ありがとう。そうするね。
レナ、私たちはもう全部許し合ったんだよ。だから自分を責めちゃダメだからね。
やっぱりみんなの言う通りだったよ。
何がだ？
やっぱり私、自分を騙せてなんかなかった。どう自分の行為を美化したって、私は心の中で恐ろしいことをしたと怯えていた。みんなに助けてもらってここまで来てこんななんだもん。もしみんなと会わずに一人で全てを片付けていたら、私は耐えきれず潰されてしまったかもしれない。
And all this with a bitter smile. It might take her a long time to heal from the pain. It must be 100 times shorter than the time it would have taken if she did this all alone. Rena's home was the closest from here. Rena went her way and the four of us were left behind. Mion made a suggestion.
明日からなんだけどさ、みんな揃って今日のことを忘れるのがいいと思うんだけど、どう思う？
そうですわね。それが一番レナさんにとって優しいことになると思いますわ。レナは強い人です。僕たちがそう振る舞えばレナもそう振る舞ってくれますですよ。
振る舞いもずっと続けてれば本当になるって言うもんな。
語らないことでそのうち私たちは忘れていくよ。そして完全に忘れきった時が私たちのゴールだね。
おそらくその日は一生かけて来るか来ないかを探ることになると思いますです。そうかもしれませんわね。簡単に忘れられることではありませんでしたよ。
仮に生涯忘れられなくてもいい。大切なのは最後まで全員の胸にしまって秘めておくことなんじゃないかと思う。
思い出させない方が大事だからね。
We nodded in agreement, just as my house came into view.
じゃあな、みんな。明日また学校でいつもの通りに。
いつもの通りに。
いつも通りにトラップに引っかかり遊ばせですわね。じゃあね、ケイちゃん。
Okay, and we're back to Rena. After I parted with them, I still felt hot and dizzy. It felt really weird. I was even staggering to the front door. It felt as if I was floating in the air. I just took some very strong cold medicine. It's probably what you should do. Today, something very shocking, something that made me super happy, and something very embarrassing happened to me. It felt as if my heart and mind were about to explode because they were filled to the brim with both happiness and sadness. I don't know whether I made a crucial mistake today, or if I had the happiest day of my life. I don't know which it is, and all I could do was stare blankly into space. I felt frustrated too. Even though they were my friends, I was caught in the act of abandoning the corpses. But at the same time, I felt relieved that my reliable friends accepted what I did. Those emotions were all mixed up in my heart. They were equally strong, making it difficult for me to decide what I was feeling. I was losing my sense of balance. It was like the world was warping around me. I heard sounds as if I was in the shower. Everything left me with a feeling of unreality. When those emotions were about to make me lose control, I felt a heat on my wrist. The part where Keiichi-kun grabbed me earlier started throbbing. My feelings weren't cooperating with me, but the heat on my wrist calmed them down for me. I don't know how to express what I felt when my friends and I held shoulders together in a circle earlier. The feeling was the only thing I knew to be real.
ただいま。あれ？
As soon as I opened the front door, I smelled it. It smelled really good. My father isn't good at cooking, but he likes trying to cook creative dishes. I remember he used to cook something very challenging whenever he was in a good mood. The smell was a sign that he felt that way. That's why I've always liked this smell. He's in a good mood because he's found a job. And not just any job. He found a job with a company created by his friends from his old workplace. They remembered my father and promised to hire him. He told me that some of his other colleagues from the old company are also working there. It must be very encouraging for him to work with people he knows because he hasn't worked for a long time. The dinner looked great, in contrast to how it tasted. It was a dinner to celebrate his new life. It was determination to gain his bond with his daughter and to make a clean start. I talked about a lot of things with my father that night. It had been a long time since the last time I talked with him like this. This room looks familiar. I don't think it'll let me go back to it. No. I don't remember when it was, but it reminded me of the days I was still happy. The last room, if it's the one I'm thinking of, the last time we would have seen it was when we saw her father when he was cleaning up, when the thug came and just like destroyed the house in his rage, being like, "You slept with my wife." Which meant I'd finally returned to that time. Yeah, I don't know if you were either. That might have been after you had left. I don't think if there's other times we've seen that room. Yeah, I don't know. That's the only other time I can think of, because when they were talking about the redecoration, I'm pretty sure we see this light. My father still believes that Teppy is coming back one day. He's still very cautious about locking the doors and windows, and he gets scared every time someone rings the doorbell. I told him so many times that they'd never come back. But I couldn't convince him, because I couldn't tell him the reason why they won't. He'll eventually realize that he's free. I'm sure it won't take too long. My heart was full of many, many emotions that day. Emotions could actually burst a heart open. It might happen to me. My brain must have been overworked because so many things happened at once. My head was still fuzzy, but I managed to crawl into bed. I felt like the ground was moving. I totally lost my sense of reality. I remember that once I felt like this when I got the flu. I might get a high fever tomorrow, but I don't care. I don't care if I get sick tomorrow. I just want to enjoy the fact that I took a step towards the future of my decision. Ichikun told me something like that today. The high fever and dizziness made me feel frustrated for some reason. But whenever I felt frustrated, I felt the heat on my wrist too. I grabbed my wrist with my left hand tightly, made the frustration go away and brought me relief. Even the dizziness I didn't like. You able to go out, bud? Yeah, you can squeeze out. Just before, it made me feel like I was in a down-filled futon. I was falling asleep in that down-filled futon, my first night in a new world. The dizziness didn't go away for a few days, but I gradually got used to it. This new world looked like the world I used to live in before. The sunshine was a little brighter, Ichikun's smile looked a little bit more gentle than before. We made more noise than we used to. We spent every day slowly, but in high spirits. Oh, what an idiot I am. I underestimated that dizziness and caught a summer cold in June. I wanted to get better as soon as possible. I should have taken a day off from club activities, but I forced myself to play with them every day, and that made it hard for me to get better. I finally learned my lesson recently. don't need to feel frustrated. There's no limit to happiness in this world. As long as we keep wishing for it, it'll continue forever. I don't need to feel frustrated anymore, because tomorrow I will have the happiness I have today. We'll have the Watanagashi Festival next Sunday. Nichan tells us that we'll have a lot of fun and that will go extra crazy. I really can't wait. All right. So, before we get into this and continue, let's just go through what just happened. Some things that just caught my eye. First of all, the song that's here, pretty much a version of that was playing from when Keiichi made his speech until the end of that chapter, which was like a solid 20-25 minutes, something like that. Of that, I recall at least 3 different versions of the song playing, not including this one. You had kind of like a solemn woodwind version, you had more of a symphonic brass version, and then you had the cheery upbeat version that we are used to. All of that happened. Also, this is the answer arc to Chapter 1, Onikakushi, in which Keiichi's the one who goes crazy and ends up killing his friends. I won't say anything more than that. And we also see that Keiichi clearly remembers the events of Chapter 3 to some extent. He's aware that he was in a similar situation. He made the decision to do it by himself, and it caused, as he puts it, the end of that world. That his evil actions were repaid in full. But the thing that caught my eye the most, and this wouldn't be something that I think... Hiro, didn't you subscribe like last stream? Yeah. 5 days ago, Hiro subscribed with Prime. What? Thank you, Twitch, for being Twitch, I guess. That sub killed Kevin. So this wouldn't be something that would be caught even if you were a part of that stream, because it has to do with the poem. And I remember I've told you before that the poems in these games actually change depending on the version you have. So the poem that was in the version we played on Steam was the Comiket 63 version, which reads like this, and this is completely unrelated, but here's what it was. Today, a tiny pleasant thing happened. When I opened a locker, I found a pin inside my shoe. Even though there's 50 people in our class, someone chose me. That's proof that there's someone who thinks about me more than anyone else. I want to tell everyone about that tiny happiness. That's why I put a pin inside everyone else's shoes, too. So that was the original one. This one is probably unique in that it has the most versions of poems. It has 4. And there's some that are quite similar. And actually, looking through, all the other 3 remaining are actually quite similar. And 2 of them are almost identical, actually. The wording changes slightly. I don't know what K-Win is, Samus says. I just read it as Kevin. I thought it was a typo. Ah, Windows Manager. Okay. Okay, I follow you. Yeah. What caught my eye is its relation to this poem, which was the Comiket 64 general release version. There's also a very similar one in the Gangan December 2005 alternate translation version, which I will now scold Hiro for. Hiro, Why do you have multiple Prime subs? Why are you gifting multiple Prime subs here? If you have multiple Prime subs, first of all, that's like shame on you for having double Primes. But you should at least spread those around. And we have a juggle? Alright. I thought you would have had enough of a juggle. I'm actually surprised that you hadn't claimed it yet. And a stretch? Oh no, we're doing everything again, are we? Oh.
What are you doing?
They're making me stretch and juggle. What were you doing, Buck? Like Rena when you heard you heard something?
I'm here to distract you.
Why are you distracting me?
It's part of the challenge.
It's part of the challenge.
I love you too, hero.
Oh, did you finish your nails?
Yes, I did.
Alright, you were here to distract me? Okay, let's see. How much can you distract me? A lot, apparently.
There you go. Oh, good job.
I can't read what's on chat, right?
Can we redeem wife stops Popeye from juggling?
You can't interfere with the other redeems. How can you make it worse?
I can koala on you while you juggle.
Can try.
No.
I mean, I've also tried, I can juggle other things. I don't think this is going to go well. It's going better than I thought it would. Oh, jeez, where did that go? There it is.
You get your redeems done?
Yes, that is a keyboard behind me. Unfortunately, I do not know Wonderwall. Actually, how well can you hear it from here? I don't know how this.
Kind of clearly, they said.
Kinda clearly. Let me turn that down, otherwise I'm gonna blow my eardrums out the next time I do. Yes, that was canon indeed. Yes, I do actually have set up a scene where I used to plug the keyboard directly into I won't unplug it. But my headset has an additional cable, and I have a splitter for it. And I could run an aux cable in through it and just patch it through and record stuff in OBS. Where were we? Oh yes, Hero, don't subscribe with Prime multiple times. But yes, I was in the middle of saying what caught my eye was the similarity to the Comiket 64 version, which reads like this. Please do not deplore yourself. Even if the world does not forgive you, I will forgive you. Please do not deplore yourself. Even if you do not forgive the world, I will forgive you. So please tell me, what will it take for you to forgive me? And the reason that caught my eye is that question at the end, what will it take for you to forgive me? And in one of the other ones, it's you still don't know what your sin is, then that itself is your sin. So, looking back at what Keiichi says to Rena in his speech there, which is actually, first of all, it's the first time that someone has straight up confessed to what they've done, the act of murder. That wasn't like right at the end. I know Shion does it right before she's about to murder Keiichi and Mion. But this is the first time, not at the end, someone just straight up owned it to everyone. It's also the first time where everyone has just kind of, one, agreed and helped them rather than just being like, I forgive you, you shouldn't have done that. This one, they go a step further in that they help her dispose of the bodies. But then also, so that's kind of covering the sin of the matter, which is the forgiveness of the matter, that they've forgiven each other this early on. The second part is the sin of the matter. The sin was that they didn't recognize what their sin was. And their sin was that for the murderer, that they didn't talk to their friends, and for everyone else that they didn't notice and didn't help out. So going back to it, that was one of the poem selections for the question arc to this, and this is the answer. So the reason why this is important is now they've answered the questions in that. What is your sin, and how do you forgive each other? They've answered that. They have completed the problem that was in that question arc. And although it's so far removed from some of the other answer arcs, I think it actually works a whole lot better in that it's not like a cut and dry, like, here's what you did last time, here's what you should have done. It's they take that idea, that concept, and stretch it to a very different scenario, an incredibly different scenario, and make it fit all the same. Should have been going to me for music advice and help? Probably not. Canon D, I remember via muscle memory. I do have it back there. I have a bunch of sheet music. I formerly took piano lessons for, 3 or 4 years, a long time ago. Trying to do some math. Probably coming up on like 18 years ago, something like that at this point in my life. 16 to 18 years ago, something like that. Where Canon D was the last thing I formally learned with my piano instructor. Throughout my time, I've also been in band for trumpet and French horn. That was also a long time ago, probably like 14 to 16 years ago. And then in my own time, because I do still like instruments, I have a ukulele back there that I sometimes play, and I have my ocarina of time in my desk here, which I know I've played on stream before, but yeah. So yeah, I like music. I have, I guess, some technical background, but not a whole lot of technical background anymore. However, I am interested in it. I do still watch videos on it, on like music theory and stuff like that, and it has piqued my interest over like the past year. I watched some stuff on like how to write compositions, how to write like drum lines, how to convert things into orchestral pieces. Definitely, there's a lot there that I've been super interested in, or like constructing lay motifs for recurring use in your music. Oh, hello. We have a special guest. This is Udon, one of our geckos. Say hi, bud.
I'm trying to get him to eat, is why I took him out.
You wanna climb, bud? You gonna hop? And jump? Just thinking about it. Maybe not.
Maybe you're too. Go on.
Come on, bud. Go for it. No.
He hasn't decided that he wants to do it yet.
I guess not.
I guess not. We're here to disrupt your stream. He's your mascot for today. There you go.
It's not where you're supposed to jump, bud.
Come on, you little toesies. There you go.
No hopping this time, okay?
I'll watch him. Good, continue.
Okay. Oh yeah, so we were talking about music stuff. So yeah, I think I ended up talking about lay motifs, which I found fascinating, and but yeah, that was if you're looking up on YouTube, that's 8-bit music theory. I love their work. 8-bit, obviously, they do a bunch of video game stuff. They cover such a wide range of topics and themes, often using like a specific game or a song from a game as their example, their lesson, as it were, for that.
He's fine. All right.
For that session. Usually I'd say like 15-20 minute videos. Super fascinating. I'm always excited to watch their videos, and the problem is I have to pay attention because they're that interesting. It's not something I can play in the background, so unfortunately I have a large backlog of videos from them to watch. All right.
He's chilling.
Yeah. You having fun, bud?
Can you take a screenshot? Is that something you can screenshot?
I can screenshot or clip it after.
Okay.
I'll just have to note the times about probably like 120 to 125 in. Yeah.
He's so cute. He's just chilling there.
You having fun? You falling asleep?
Do you know what video games are? He might be falling asleep actually because you're so warm.
Yeah. Probably take him before he falls asleep.
Come on, buddy.
Hi, bud. You stuck to me now?
He's like, oh, no, the worms. Come on, bud. No. Nope. You got him.
Bye, bud.
Woo!
You good? Good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, so we have one tip from that letter from the forestry office. Wow. I was expecting it to be like a formal letter, but no, this seems like a circular. It's still June, yet the air is filled with the cry of cicadas. How is everyone in Hinamizawa doing? The Watanagashi Festival is coming just around the corner. Oh, actually, before I finish this, that's about 1 hour, 20 to 26 minutes. For udon. Okay. We staff members at the Forestry Service are going to perform a wood sculpting demonstration at the festival. We'll be happy to lend out our tools and teach our kids how to sculpt wood themselves. It'll be an excellent memorial gift. We'd also like to inform everyone that we are going to be cutting down trees in the local hills this summer as part of the number redacted 4th Forest Landscape Management Project. Hiro is walking. Looks suspicious. This project involves preserving the beauty of the forest by cutting down old trees and planting new ones. Forestry Service needs volunteers who are interested in helping us cut down the old trees. You can enjoy the beauty of nature under the blue sky while helping out this preservation activity. The project will begin during summer break, so you can bring your kids too. It'll be a good opportunity for your kids to learn about nature and have a valuable experience. The locations of the projects are the forests of Takatsudo and Yaguchi areas, the later one being where we just buried the bodies. You know what's suspicious, Hiro? Having 2 prime subs in 5 days. That seems suspicious. Alright, so we'll do a save. That was chapter 6. That was a long chapter. Like, that chapter was probably about 2 hours long. I know Twitch can be weird sometimes, where I've done this before, where I've like subscribed to someone and tried to like put through the message and it wouldn't go through, but then it would go through the next time they streamed. It would come again, like, hey, do you want to send the chat message? And I'm like, sure, fine, whatever. So they get the notification and it can like
suspicious.
Yes, you hear that? Suspicious. Well, you had to go and gift a sub to Irish, didn't you, huh? Just for that, I don't know if we're murdering people anymore. You know, we might be done murdering now. You may have, like, cursed the stream, but in a good way this time. Forgot this one had a mid-game poem. We murdered the uncle. The uncle has been murdered. I need to see if this had an alternate as well.
未来を切り開くためにその先にあるものは幸せかそれとも不幸せか罪滅ぼし誰かを愛したかったでも本当は
This isn't a poem.
誰かに愛され
This is a reflection by Rena. That's why it didn't appear. Some games do have a mid-game and end-game poem. I just didn't remember this one having them. And the reason why it wasn't is because all the poems are written by Frederica Baron Castell, whereas that one is clearly written and voiced by Rena. And no, I've not become the uncle. You have no rank on this council. You don't get to decide who we murder.
特製のフランクフルトはいかがですか？あよ。シロップはイチゴにメロンにブルーハワイがあるよ。おみくじたこ焼きいかがですか？
What makes it a
当
roulette?
たりにはマスタードがげっしり。
There are a great many booths at this year's Watanagashi festival. Anything can become a festival if there are vendors selling food and music for bond dances, I thought. It's still June, but it's been extremely hot the past few days, almost as if it's already summer. When you have a June festival with bond dance music under this kind of weather, the only thing that's missing to make it the perfect summer festival is fireworks. Oh, are we the cops? Okay, I didn't know this, but we're now the cops. I didn't even know that was part of this, is we get to play the cops. I heard her voice coming from my portable radio. With this earphone, it looks a little like I'm secretly listening to the horse races while on duty. Pretty sure that's code word for beer.
その麦茶、勤務中に飲める麦茶、飲めない麦茶。その麦茶、缶ならもらっといてください。コップなら自体でお願いします。はい、了解です。それと、紹介役員が挨拶に来てます。村長と、あと、園崎家の方からも。
Hello, Irish. You've been summoned to scold Hero, who gifted you a sub because, for whatever reason, their Twitch Prime allowed them to give me 2 subs, and then I was complaining that they used 2 gift subs from Twitch Prime on me. So then they're like, you know what? Frick you, have another gift sub. How are you doing, Irish? I know you'd said earlier in Valentine's stream that you've been feeling better, so that's good to hear.
お寮のばあさま、やだな。大石は巡回中でいつ戻ってくるかわからないとか言ってごまかせません。
Man, that sounds good. I love Chinese food.
あのばあさま、死ぬときは絶対脳梗塞ですね。了解了解。すぐに戻ると丁重にですよ。お伝えください。
Oh well, I guess I'll have to go back and mingle with the locals. All of a sudden, a group of kids came running toward me from behind. How would you know if a group of kids came running towards you from behind? After a quick look at them, I noticed that they were the granddaughter of the old bag and her friends. They occupied a corner of the shooting gallery stall, making a lot of noise. Making it through work is good, especially because I assume you still have those long shifts. I know you were doing some long, what was it, like 11, 12-hour days, something ridiculous. Mion Sonozaki. When acting her age, she's a cute, normal girl. Do I ever hate when she acts like a member of the Sonozaki family? She'll be the boss of the Okonomi Yakuza territory in 10 or 20 years. Just you wait and see. While I was thinking things like that, I noticed that Mion wasn't the one taking leadership of her group this time. It was the boy. That boy, I know him. He just moved here recently. The boy from the Maibara mansion. Keiichi Maibara-kun, was it? I heard that the Maibara family's from the city, and they're supposedly very rich, too. I mean, you say this, I feel like that's never stopped a boss before being like, we're only open 9 to 5, but can you be in here at 6? Need to do inventory. But he doesn't flaunt his family's wealth, and he has a good reputation because of that. Even though he just moved here, he's already adjusted to his new school, and he's popular with his classmates, too. Everyone in the village seems to like him as well. He's very interesting to watch, as a person of many moods. Boys of his age sure have a lot of energy. Ah, to be young again.
おい、次はレナだぜ。ここでレナはかなり美味しいタイミングだぜ。
大丈夫レナ？具合悪いんじゃないの？
ごめん。ちょっと射的は横で見てたいかな。なら無理をしないで休んでいるといいのです。ではレナさんを飛ばしてここでいよいよ真打ち。私の出番でございましてよ。
I can imagine that during the, like, Christmas Boxing Day and then the return rush. Yeah. Looked like only 4 of them were having a good time. The girl called Rena seemed outside of that circle of smiles. Her name was Rena Ryugu. What was her real name? Couldn't remember, but I can check when I get back to the station. Rena is only a nickname. I believe she moved here a year before Maibara-kun did. Mother divorced her father, or something like that. She's a strong girl who does all the housework by herself. She's a very modest girl, I'm told, which is rare in this era. Unlike Maibara-kun, it seemed like she hadn't really opened up to her friends just yet. They looked like a group of 5, but there's distance between her and the others. It's a little sad, you know? Maibara-kun has become part of the village, but Rena is still by herself? Well, that's just how it looks to me.
おいし了解。地域のお祭りにまで挨拶に来るなんて、うちの所長は地域交流に豆だな。沖宮の祭りに来たって話は聞いたことないのに。
ああ、こちら高杉です。大石さん聞こえますか？どうぞ。どうぞ。
はいはい、大石です。ただいま全速力で帰還中ですよ。もう1分ほどお待ちを。
If I don't hurry up, even the chief might end up calling me. I ran back to the headquarters tent. And we're just cutting through everything quickly, huh?
Oi-san, 先生が到着してます。
ああ、どうもどうも。どうですか、入江の先生。
Are we the doctor now? What is happening? Boichi entered the cordoned off area. In there, people from Forensic were taking pictures of a corpse from various angles. Kyrie was squatting down next to the dead body of Jiro Tomitake. He stood up, he looked pale.
信じられません。
そりゃあ私だって信じられませんよ。初見で見た限り、仏は喉をかきむしっています。それも自分の手でです。こいつはまっとうな死に方じゃない。十中八九、何らかのヤバめな薬物でしょう。
彼は何らかの薬物の常習者だったということでしょうか。
さあね。そいつを調べるのはどうやら我々の仕事になりそうです。
大石さん、この角材は
多分仏が振り回したんじゃないかと思います。で、途中で捨てて喉をかくのが楽しくなっちゃったんじゃないかと。
角材を何のために振り回したんでしょう。
自衛のためと考えるのが一番自然だと思います。仏の体に外傷がいくつかあるのに気づいてます？
ええ、打撲傷を思わせる跡がいくつか散見できます。
ってことは一番考えられるストーリーは、仏が祭り終了後沖宮へ帰る途中、ここで何者かに襲われた。それで取り押さえられて怪しげな注射とかそういうのをされて、その結果錯乱させられて死に至らしめられた。
喉をかきむしるように誘導できる薬物なんて。
私もそっちは専門じゃありませんが、薬物中毒の一つに自傷行為ってあるらしいじゃないですか。まあその辺はうちの鑑識のじい様が調べてくれるでしょう。
おいさん、失礼します。ここから数百メートルのところに富武二郎のものと思われる自転車が見つかりました。
お、そうですか。ありがとうございます。何か手がかりとかは？
いえ、初見では特には。今鑑識が言っています。
じゃあつまりその自転車があった場所が襲撃場所と考えていいんでしょうね。それで戦ったり逃げたりしてここまで来た。
Oishi frowned, crossing his arms in front of his chest. Irie was looking at the miserable corpse of Tomitake, and he kept saying the same thing over and over.
ありえない。絶対にありえない。
先生、ありえちゃったんだから仕方がないです。発想を柔軟にしましょう。まあ先生でもこんな死体はなかなか見慣れてるものじゃないか。先生はもう結構ですよ。お帰りになられて十分休んでください。救命活動でお呼びしたはずだったんですが、無駄足になってしまって申し訳ないです。
Oishi stuck his head out of the blue tent and asked, "Can anybody give him a ride home?" Irie gasped all of a sudden as he turned towards Oishi.
そうだ。高野さんはどうなったんです？
え？お宅の看護師さんの？
多分富武さんと一緒だったと思うんです。高野さんは無事なんですか？
先生、彼女の電話番号はわかります？
もちろんです。
熊ちゃん、入江の先生に電話番号を聞いて署から在宅確認を取らせてください。
了解っす。先生、番号。
はい、よろしいですか
Magi got the phone number from Irie, repeated it back, and then dashed away from the blue tarps.
先生、高野さんと仏は確か親しい仲でしたよね。
ええ。
何かトラブルがあったとか、そういうのは聞いたことがあります？
まさか。聞いたことないです。仲のいい二人でした。
何事もなけりゃいいんですがね。下手すりゃ仏か、それとも星か。なるほど。看護師なら怪しげな薬物を取り扱えてもおかしくはないですよね。
そんな薬品はうちの診療所にはありませんし、あったとしても厳重に保管されています。高野さんに持ち出せるわけがない。
それでも一般人よりは容易でしょ。
ですからそもそもそんな薬物は聞いたことがないし、当診療所にも存在しません。
大石さん、留守のようです。署の待機組の方で直接訪問すると言ってます。先生、すみませんが高野さんの住所を教えてください。
熊ちゃん、それプラス県警に今夜出た身元不明の女性死体がないか確認を取ってください。あるいは県外の可能性もあるんだ。課長に近県にも同様に身元不明の女性死体が出ていないか確認を取るよう伝えてください。
了解っす。
高野さんも殺されているということですか？
さてどうでしょうね。まだ外車とも星とも決まったわけじゃありません。もちろん無関係って可能性だって残ってます。明日は月曜だってのも構わず、その辺の飲み屋で飲んだくれてる可能性もありますからね。
信じられない。どうしてこんなことが。
まあ私だって信じられないです。Hinamizawa村連続開始事件。これで5年目ですよ。お社様のたたりが5連続ってことになっちまいます。くそ。なんとか今年で尻尾をつかんでやりたいな。定年前にこの山だけはなんとか片付けたいんです。
But she hates the curse of Oyashiro-sama. He's been leading him around by the nose for 5 consecutive years. The victim of the first year, the manager of the dam construction site, was his friend. Despite his desire to avenge his friend, the mystery had only deepened, and one case followed another year after year. Wished she would be retiring next March. As a retiree, he'd be able to ask about the progress of the investigation, but he wouldn't be able to take the initiative anymore. In other words, this year was his last chance for revenge. Did he have to put his head in the lion's mouth to capture the culprit? Oishi quietly clenched his fist. I believe that this maze has an exit. Maze is a very convenient word. A maze always has an exit. You don't call it a maze if it doesn't have one. Now I'm on the right path towards the exit of this maze. I used to miss these minor divergences, but now I don't miss anything. I don't make any mistakes. This time I could feel a response that was different than all the other times. I'm sure I can finally get to the exit of this maze. But no matter which path I choose to come to this point, Jiro Tomitaki always dies. It's all the times when I pass by, huh? Rena had been sick ever since that day. She hadn't been able to join in on club activities as often since.
まだちょっと風邪っぽいの。そうでございますの。それは残念ですわね。
なあレナ、たまにはパーッとはしゃいでみないか。多分元気に遊べば吹っ飛ばせると思うんだよ俺は。
うんうん、そうだね。それはおじさんも同感だね。
そうかな。
横になっている方がかえって毒になることもありますです。
そうですわよね。病は気からとも言いますですわ。
Everybody had suspected for a while that Rena isn't really sick, at least not physically. Just that many things happened to her at once. She caught a mental cold.
Oh, they missed the special guest.
Yes. Fine. I'll have video and stuff of him. I've noted it down. Take a look at after.
Can you do the thing where you had a clip of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll try and get the one where he like jumps off my shoulder into my beard.
Well, he's back, and I heard him fall. He jumped, and I heard a thump in his terrarium.
Of course he did.
Yeah. He has, not very many brain cells.
At least think it's plural.
He has 2. Although you said he shares it with the other one, so
Yeah.
I can't bring the other one out because he just ate, and he would throw up all over you.
I like to not be thrown up on.
Next time.
Next time.
If I can get him to stop squirming. The other one's older, so
Yeah.
he doesn't squirm as much. The other one is...
And he's more chill. He just likes to cling to stuff. So.
Yeah. Well, it's because he's older. The other one's still technically a juvenile.
Until... Is it May?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to murder the uncles. Now you've become the uncle.
I have not become the uncle. We have murdered the uncle already.
That's accurate. It's accurate, hero. He is an uncle.
No.
Uncle, old man.
I mean, old man and not an uncle. That's why I thought she would get better when she played with us, just like we used to. Seemed like Rena was aware of that too. She knew she had to get out of her state of depression soon. She wanted to get better. She wanted to have fun again every day.
よし、私も参加する。
オッケー。そう来なくっちゃね。じゃあ今日はレナの病み上がりも少し加味してテーブルゲームから種目をチョイスしよう。何がいいかな、何がいいかな。
Neon started rummaging through her locker, humming to herself. Took one game after another from the locker and put them aside. That locker definitely didn't obey the laws of physics. The amount of games she took out of the locker was more than what it could physically hold.
お、こんなのもあったね。久しぶりにやってみようか。今日は本格派推理ゲームでいこう。
ほう、なんだよそれ。面白そうだな。
犯人と凶器、犯行現場の3つを当てるゲームなの。結構頭を使うんだよ。
一度やればすぐに覚えてしまいます。ちゃんとメモに整理していけば大丈夫なのです。情報の整理にはちょっとしたコツがありますのよ。知的な私の最も得意とするジャンルでございますわね。
Rules don't seem that difficult. In short, it's a game where you sound out the cards each player holds in order to try and reason out the identity of the cards first drawn out of the deck. There are plenty of games in different formats where you try to identify something hidden in the least number of steps. This just happens to be a competitive one of those. The key to winning this game would be how well you can organize your information. We usually like to play athletic games that we can run around a lot. In our club, you have to excel both academically and athletically.
よしよしよし、なんだか面白くなってきやがった。やろうぜやろうぜ。レナ、今日こそ曖昧になってるあの水鉄砲勝負の時の白黒をつけてやる。
そうだね。よーし、レナも本気で行くからね。レナが本気なら僕も本気を出さないといけませんです。ですわね。あの水鉄砲の一件以来、ケイチさんとレナさんの評価を改めましてよ。容赦なく行かせていただきますわ。
よしよし、盛り上がってきたね。おじさんもこういう熱さを期待してたんだよ。よし、行ってみよう。
よし行くぜ。俺がナイフで書斎はどうだ。
あるよ。レナはね、ケイチくん毒薬で玄関ホールだよ。私はこれですわね。ミオン、ピストル、ラウンジですわ。
Wait. Okay.
ピストルはあんたが持ってるんでしょ。下手なフェイクは意味ないよ。
犯人と凶器は特定できたと思います。犯行現場が2択なのです。はあ、リカちゃんも？私は犯人が2択で特定できない。コツは相手の質問内容からも何かのヒントを得ることですのよ。それが分かれば時には相手の手札で答えが分かることもありましたよ。
なるほどな。くそ、甘く見てたか。やべえ、メモがぐちゃぐちゃで意味が分からなくなった。
メモに書き取るコツが分かればこのゲームは7割方攻略したも同然だね。
He's using it. Is he still there? Maybe he'll go to sleep in it. Is this the first time he's used it? Which one is he using?
The one that's, I think he likes it better without the sphagnum moss. I'm gonna take the moss out of the other ones.
Okay.
Oh my god.
The top right or top left?
Top right.
Okay. At least he's not like Achilles and kicking out all the moss and looking happily down at the mess.
At least Achilles had a plan, okay? He was redecorating. I'm sorry for disrupting your stream so much.
If he's still there when I'm done, I'll come take a look at him. I kind of knew I didn't stand a chance of winning this game, but I gradually started picking it up. Rena seemed to be getting her energy back as she played along. The right decision to force her to play with us today. While we were in the middle of the game, Chie-sensei came back to the classroom.
ところでリュウグウさんはいますか？リュウグウさんにお客様が来ています。
Everybody looked puzzled. Parents sometimes showed up at school for some reason, but Chie-sensei never called them visitors. It's rare to have a visitor at school.
なんだろう。ちょっと行ってくるね。みんなは部活続けててね。
Rena left the classroom at a run.
待ってるか？
どれだけかかる用事かわからないからね。レナもああ言ってたことだし、私たちは続けようか。
あ
あ! Okay, now we're in it. Around the entrance, the glaring sun and cool shade made for a clear contrast. An old man who's holding his jacket on his arm was waiting for me. He looked like he was overheating and his tie was limp.
Rena-san?
Ever since Rena started calling me Rena, I've hated that name more than ever. Because of that, I didn't have a good first impression of this
そう
man.
ですよ。どちら様ですか？
私の車はエアコンが効いてますから、そっちでお話ししましょう。ここ暑くありません？
He ignored my question and started walking towards the car parked in front of the school gate. If he wanted to talk about something normal, he would have used the teacher's office, but he wanted to talk in his car instead. I couldn't help but feel suspicious. Chie-sensei let him see me, though. That meant he wasn't a suspicious individual as far as she was concerned. So, who was he?
取って食いやしません。どうぞどうぞ。
He called out to me while opening the rear door. Is he a policeman? Did the police find out that I killed those two? I felt anxious all of a sudden. Is this what they called a voluntary interview? I didn't want to go in that car, but if I rejected his offer, it'd only make me look suspicious. I prepared myself and got in. It was really cool inside the car. Car AC must cost a fortune. Samus's is in a crowd of 6 people? It's not a crowd, and it's suspicious. At least my father's car
冷え
didn't
す
have
ぎだっ
one.
たら言ってくださいよ。私ガンガンに冷やしちゃうたちですから。
で、私に何の用ですか？
In retaliation, I ignored his question and got to the point like he did. He pulled a small notebook out of his breast pocket and flipped through it. He picked out a photo from it. The photo showed the face of a
この
goofy-looking
男性の
man.
ことでご存知のことがあったら教えてください。
The man in the picture was expressionless and looked half asleep. Sometimes you can't even recognize your own family members in a photo where they don't have an expression. There's no way I'd recognize a person who wasn't related to me. But anyway, that was a bit of a relief. This had nothing to do with Rena or her
シャ
partner.
ツにマジックで落書きがありましてね。リュウグさんをはじめクラスメート何人かの署名入りでした。
これ富武さん？
I don't feel his usual carefree unreliableness from this picture at all. From this half-awake, emotionless face.
では、こちらの女性はわかりますか？
I knew what he was
ミ
going
オ
to
さん
show.
です。高野美代さん。
二人に最後に会ったのはいつですか？
綿流しの祭りのお開きになった。
何か気になったこととかありませんか？何でも結構です。話してください。
富武さんたちに何かあったんですか？
よっしゃー取った。実はよ、レナとミオンで二択だったんだよな。
じゃあ博打だったんですの？なんてリスクのあることを。それでも勝ちは勝ちなのですよ。
お、レナだ。おかえり。ずいぶん時間かかったね。
He had noticed that Rena had returned. He giving him treats now?
Yes.
I heard him running. Bud, are you getting spoiled?
I can see the audio going like as he breathes.
Mm-hmm.
Suspicious. Don't be suspicious. No. Let's see how.
He looked exhausted. I have no idea what she talked about with that visitor. It was obvious it wasn't something fun.
レナ、大丈夫？
Uh-oh.
What is the cursed font? Is it Comic Papyrus again?
何大丈夫って。
いや、顔色だよ。青いというか、白いというか。本当に大丈夫？
Back in 2003, ended up here for release of intro. Okay. Rena tried to convince us she was fine, but her face clouded over for a moment. She decided to leave early. I shouldn't have forced her to join the game. I was regretting it a little. You found the Metroid Prime font? Rena probably forced herself to play with us, even though she wasn't feeling well at all. Rena put her stuff in her bag, apologized to us for leaving early, and left the classroom.
まあ仕方ありませんわね。ではせめて私たちの白黒ははっきりさせようじゃございませんの。
そうだね。次は誰の番だっけ？
よっしゃ、リカちゃん来やがれ。
First of all, I wasn't very close to Mio-san. Everything is uppercase. I mean, that is a stylistic choice. There's a lot of like websites and stuff now that just put everything in capitals. I knew who she was, so I greeted her whenever we happened to pass by. That was about it. Never really talked to her except for the one time. That time was only recently. It was between the day of the Watanagashi festival and the day I was caught in the act of burying the 2 corpses by Keiichi-kun and my other friends. I had a phone call from the library that evening. I was told that my father needed to return the book he borrowed. He was shopping at the home improvement store at the time, so I went to the library to return the book for him. While I was there, I thought about borrowing some books for myself, and I started walking around the library. Oh, but for a system font? Yeah. I would at least expect for, like the font for Metroid Prime, at the very least you'd have, like, just both capital and lowercase, and that way you can just choose as the situation fits. I could see something like in menus for games that often everything's in uppercase, or you have, you know, like equipment, status, settings. Okay, that makes sense.
Ara, Rena ちゃんじゃないかしら。こんにちは。
みおさん、どうもこんにちは。図書館で会うなんて珍しいですね。
そう？私にとってみれば、あなたが図書館にいることの方が珍しいんだけどね。
She smiled in the very attractive and charming way that only the mature woman can do. Her smile gave no indication that she knew her death was just a few days away. She said she often met with Tomitake-san at the library. It seemed like she had some time to kill, so she told me she wanted to buy me a drink. I had nothing to do after that. I let her buy me a canned iced milk tea from the vending machine in the library, and we talked for a while. Once I came to think about it, it was a little ironic. She mostly talked about the series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa. She had no idea that she was going to be the victim of its 5th year.
連続開始事件ですか？
あら、聞いたことくらいあるでしょ。4年前にはダムの現場監督、3年前には北条夫妻、2年前には古出夫妻、そして去年は聡子ちゃんのおばが犠牲になったhinamizawa村連続開始事件よ。それがあと何日かで5年目を迎えるじゃない。
一応私もそういう物騒な名前で呼ばれていることは知ってますけど、でも5年目も起こると決まったわけじゃ。
起こるわよ、絶対にね。2度あることは3度あるってことわざがあるけど、4度あることは5度あるって方がもっと確率は高いとは思わない？
Mio-san was convinced that the 5th mysterious death was going to happen. She didn't know that she was going to be the 5th victim. That's ironic and also really creepy. There was always something creepy about her, so maybe she knew that she was going to be killed in a few days, but still managed to make that mysterious smile. A series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa. Of course I know about it, I've lived here for more than a year. Every year on the day of the Watanagashi festival, one traitor to the village dies mysteriously. It's been that way since the dam conflict. Each case was solved individually, but mysterious incidents still happen every year. Makes me wonder if there's some kind of will to all this. The creepiness and incomprehensibility of it all gave rise to the name The Curse of Oyashiro-sama, which fit perfectly. Despite this, I've always thought The Curse of Oyashiro-sama was just a series of coincidences. The reason for that is because I strongly believe that Satoshi-kun was the one who murdered his aunt on the 4th year. I don't have any evidence, but I just know it. I know that Satoshi-kun was in a serious predicament last year, and he had nowhere to turn. He had no one to help him, but he had to save Sadako-chan as soon as he could. Satoshi-kun thought it through and made his best choice he could to handle the situation, just like I did when I had my problem with Rena. I hesitated to inform Mio-san that Satoshi-kun was the murderer on the 4th year, and just listened to her for a while. According to her theory, the series of mysterious deaths isn't just a set of coincidences, instead a series of interrelated murder cases. At that point, my theory was completely the opposite of hers, but I decided not to cut in.
Hinamizawa のお社様信仰は知ってるわよね。
Takano-san started telling me that Hinamizawa wasn't called Onigafuchi. She also explained the story of how the villagers were in the old days, showing me the scrapbook she was so proud of. Villagers back then were called man-eating demons. They were also admired as transcendents, enlightened people not bound by earthly
つまり、
desires.
ミオさんの説によるならば、 連続開始事件はお社様を崇拝する信心深い団体がHinamizawaに潜んでいて、お社様の力を世に示そうとしているということなんですか？
信心深いというか原理主義的というかは紙一重だけどね。明治以降、村の名前がHinamizawaに変わって以来、鬼ヶ淵村が長く続けてきたさまざまな風習が途絶えている。それをよみがえらせ、再び鬼ヶ淵村の名と威風を取り戻そうと思っている人たちがいるんじゃないかしら。
Mio-san's theory is more than a little crazy, but it was also fascinating. First, her theory had sounded like she was just jumping to conclusions. After she eagerly showed me the document she'd been studying, I started to think that it wasn't actually too far from the truth. If the theory was true, it would mean that the accidental deaths of the Hojo couple in the second year, and suicide and death by disease of the Furude couple in the third year, the drug addict murder in the fourth year, were all cooked up. It would mean someone who has a lot of power and influence over the police was involved. When I pointed that out, Mio-san nodded in agreement. She started talking about how strongly they were rooted in the village and how deeply they were involved in many public organizations. After she finished explaining all that, I noticed that Mio-san was suggesting that the three families, including the Sonozaki families, are the masterminds behind the murder incidents. In fact, the Sonozaki family really is very powerful. They hold influence not only over Hinamizawa and Okinomiya, but also over the entire Shishibone area. I might not be wrong to say that they even hold influence over the entire prefecture. The Sonozaki family is behind all of this. Her theory would be more realistic. But that means I should be suspicious of Michan. No, I shouldn't. In fact, Michan was very cold and unkind to Satoshi-kun. He was going through a tough time. I know there was a conflict between the Sonozaki family and the Hojo family during the Dam Wars, but still, she was very cold to Satoshi-kun. Michan admitted that what she did was wrong, and I forgave her too. I didn't want to think about that again. I decided to change the subject because I knew it would make me feel uncomfortable. We kept talking about the Sonozaki family.
そもそもお社様信仰って一体何なんでしょうね。鬼と人が共存というのも面白い話です。普通の昔話だったら鬼が来たら退治してやっつけるという風なのに。
そうね。そのあたりがお社様信仰の面白いところね。でもそもそも神の国から神が漂着してきて崇められるというのは決して珍しいことではないのよ。漂着神崇拝って言ってね、世界中に海の向こうからあるいは川上から神が漂着してきて、それを人々が敬ったという類の神話が残されているわ。
それは偉人漂着の話でしょうか。
そういう捉え方も一般的ね。古代日本は大陸に比べると様々な文化が遅れていた。だから進んだ文化を持った異国人が漂着した結果、その知識を敬い神と祀ったという。
そういえば日本に伝わる赤鬼や青鬼もナンパして漂着した異国人のことを指すのではないかという説がありましたね。天狗のいわゆる真っ赤で鼻が異様に高い顔も欧米人を見慣れない古代の人々が作り上げたのかもしれないし。
あら、レナちゃんもなかなか鋭い見方ができるわね。それには私も同感よ。大方の漂着神信仰の原点は私も偉人漂着にあると思うわ。でもそうだとすると、鬼ヶ淵村の鬼が現れたとする漂着神信仰にはちょっと不思議な点がある。わかるかしら？
わからないです。
簡単よ。鬼ヶ淵村には海がない。
あ、確かに。
偉人漂着なら外の世界とつながる接点が欠かせないはずよ。欧米なら異国に通じる川、日本なら世界に接する海。だから日本における漂着神崇拝もそのほとんどは沿岸部に集中するわね。
鬼ヶ淵村以外に漂着し、そこから旅をしてここまでやってきた可能性はありませんか？
ところがお社様信仰の決定的なところは、鬼が漂着した場所を鬼ヶ淵沼とはっきり特定している点なの。鬼ヶ淵沼には何も流れ着かない。そんなところになぜどこから漂着したのか。実はこの辺にお社様信仰の謎を探る面白さがあるのよ。お社様の伝説はどの程度知ってるかしら？
学校に置いてある絵本で読んだ程度です。
I feel like I know a lot about it, but I actually don't. I just have an extreme fear of the rule not to leave Hinamizawa. After all, my life went wrong after I left. I felt dizzy when I tried to think about it further, so I stopped. And everything went wrong in Ibaraki. I met Oyashiro-sama, and he told me to go back to Hinamizawa. I'll get dizzy. Don't try to remember. Don't try to remember. I can't remember. I got desperate because I felt responsible for the divorce. I just used Oyashiro-sama as an excuse for my mental instability, and I told my father I wanted to go back to Hinamizawa, right? But wait. Oyashiro-sama did come to me. Oh no, the colors are too dazzling. I only remember the vivid color of the pills and the dizziness.
それだけ知ってれば十分よ。鬼ヶ淵より鬼が湧き出し、それを見かねたお社様が降臨して鬼たちを平服させたわ。鬼たちは地獄を追放され、行き場がないことを嘆き、それで村人たちは鬼たちを気の毒に思って村に住まわせてあげようと決めた。そしてお社様は村人たちの心に感銘を受け、鬼たちに人の姿を与え、その血は次第に交わり、村人たちに溶け込んでいった。
そうです。そういう話だったと思います。
I felt dizzy, like I was gonna faint. I touched the one memory I didn't want
神話
to.
の多くは古代の何らかの事実を原型にしていると言われることが多いんだけど、レナちゃんはこの神話から何を読み取れるかしら？
Because I was still feeling dizzy, all I could do was tilt my head quizzically. It seemed like Mio-san was expecting that response because she smiled, looking satisfied that she successfully made me confused. She took a scrapbook out of her paper bag.
これ、レナちゃんに貸してあげるわ。
ありがとうございます。でも私。
いいのよ。暇な夜長にでも思い出したら読んでくれれば結構。レナちゃんは鋭いところがあるみたいだから、それを読んだ上で今度じっくり議論を交わしたいわね。私も肯定的であれ敵対的であれ、議論の相手がいなくて寂しいのよ。二郎さん、こういうのにはさっぱり興味のない人だし。
I had little choice but to take the scrapbook. Apparently Mio-san came to the library often, so I figured I could return it to her whenever I came to return my books. However, the day I'd return the scrapbook to Mio-san never came.
どうしたの？さっきからうつろね。体調悪いの？
あ、ちょっと夏風邪気味で、まだ病み上がりなんです。
It wasn't the summer cold that was making me feel dizzy. I always get dizzy when I try to remember the time I met Oyashiro-sama in Ibaraki. I mustered all of my courage and asked her. The memory of those days in Ibaraki is blurry. I know I met Oyashiro-sama. Nobody believed me and they told me it was a hallucination. I thought Mio-san would listen to me.
ミオさん、今度は私の話を聞いてもらってもいいですか？
いいわよ。聞いてもらったお返しに、今度は私が聞くわ。
いえ、お社様の話なんです。笑われないかとても不安です。
笑わないわよ。あなたも私の話を笑わなかったもの。
Mio-san said it in a very gentle and mature way that encouraged me. Even so, I still hesitated to talk. There was probably nobody but Mio-san with whom I could talk something about like this. I gathered my courage again and spoke.
私、お社様に会ったことがあるんです。
本当に？
はい、私小学校に上がる前まではHinamizawaに住んでいたんです。それが母の仕事の関係で茨城に引っ越したんです。この意味はわかりますよね？
わかるわよ。Hinamizawaを離れてはならないというお社様の禁忌に触れたということね。
そうです。それでいろいろ悪いことが起こって母が離婚し、家庭はぐちゃぐちゃになりました。私も自暴自棄になって悪いことをしたりしました。
辛いこともあったのね。それで？
世の中の何もかもが嫌になって、自分以外の幸せな人たち全部が私を見下しているように感じた最後の頃、不思議な存在が現れるようになったんです。
それがお社様？
初めて現れたのは内緒ですよ。全部嫌になって自分を壊してしまいたいと思って体に刃物を突きつけたことがあった
Okay,
んです。
well, now we have self-harm, so there's another trigger warning. So if self-harm's not something that you want to be a part of tonight, please by all means take your leave.
その時首をカミソリで切りつけたら血に混じってブクブクと汚らしい何かが溢れ出したんです。それは、
バカにしないわよ。続けて。
Chill I felt at that time came back to me. I sealed that memory away so that I wouldn't have to remember ever again. Once I unsealed it, I started remembering things one after another. Back then, there was something in the blood, something crawling.
赤黒い無数の何か。それらは首から血がこぼれるのと一緒にわらわらと湧き出してきました。しかもそいつらは外へ溢れまいと傷口から再び中へ戻っていこうと、わらわらって。私そんな気持ち悪いのに体内に戻られたくなくって書きました。首の傷をひっかいてほじくり出そうとしました。でもそれ以上は痛くて血まみれになるばかりで、それで私は急に怖くなりました。私の体の中には血管いっぱいにあの気持ち悪いのがぎっしり詰まってるんじゃないかって。それで私は試しにカミソリで股の血管を開いてみました。そこならよく見えると思ったから。そしたら溢れてきたんです。ドバッとわらわらっと。
I understand, Ryuga-san. Please calm down.
分かってないってば。そいつらは血と一緒にドバッと溢れ出すけど、すぐに元の血管の中に戻ろうとする。それがとてもか
ゆいんです。Please bring a doctor. No, don't claw at it like that. Bring me a sedative. Hurry. Hold her down.
私の血管の中のやつをやっつけて、血を全部抜いてきれいにして。私の血管には変なのがいっぱい詰まってるの。どうして信じないの？見せてあげるから。見れば信じるでしょ。注射は嫌。
落ち着いて。
Yo-san sat next to me and held my hands tightly. Her touch brought me back to reality.
それでどうしたの？
そんな誰も私のことを信じてくれない時に現れたんです、お社様が。
Memory was very vague, and I saw flickering lights and made it difficult for me to remember. I met Oishiro-sama. That sentence is all I remembered. The memory of actually meeting Oishiro-sama was unbelievably vague. After I got out of the hospital, I continued being treated at home. I still felt something moving in my veins. I wanted to cut my body to make the blood ooze out so that I could make sure there were no maggots in there. Usually I was sleeping like the dead because of the strong pills I was taking. One day I forgot to take the pill. My consciousness was very clear. I felt the maggots moving in my veins. I felt the urge to look inside. I had a vein on my wrist. I knew it. A lot of blood and many dark, dusky red maggots came out from the wound. I wanted to wash them off before they crawled back inside me, so I put my wrist under running water in the bathroom sink and tried to open the vein. Water, blood, and maggots ran down into the drain. Just like squeezing out the pus from a pimple, I squeezed the vein to get rid of the dirty blood and the maggots. I kept doing it. My arm started to feel numb. I felt cold, but I kept doing it. Thought I might die from losing too much blood, but I kept doing it. My body was filled with maggots, and I had to squeeze all of the blood out of me. Oh, this is lovely. You've hit a major hurdle. What have you encountered, Samuses? And then a very bright light shone upon me. Very bizarre sensation. I'd never experienced anything like it in my life. All of a sudden, the dark bathroom was filled with a bright light. It was very bright, but gentle. It wasn't like the light from the merciless fluorescent bulb. Plasma requires SVGs, and you're using files, and they're all bitmaps. Yeah. That was Oyashiro-sama. Oyashiro-sama was looking at me with gentleness and sadness in his eyes. As he touched my wound, the maggots started melting and disappearing in front of my eyes. That wasn't all. All the maggots that were moving throughout all my veins disappeared too. Oyashiro-sama taught me. These maggots were the curse. People of the demon's blood can't live outside of Hinamizawa. It's the rule. Fortunately, you've been cursed. It's very sad, and I feel sorry for you. There's only one way to save you. That's what he said. What should I do? The answer was very simple. All I needed to do was to go back to Hinamizawa. You mean subconsciously? I unconsciously knew that before I heard it from Oyashiro-sama. People who were born in Hinamizawa must never leave. I broke Oyashiro-sama's rules and I left Hinamizawa. But my family was broken and I lost my mind. If I hadn't left Hinamizawa, nothing would have gone wrong. So I had to go back. Oyashiro-sama also told me this. To make the maggots, the embodiment of the curse, disappear. Only temporarily because I lived far from Hinamizawa. After a while, the power of Oyashiro-sama would fade away and the curse would start eating my body again. If that happened, the maggots would take over my body and I would go insane and die. I must go back to Hinamizawa before his power pulled the curse down and faded away. That's what Oyashiro-sama told me. He did. I heard him tell me that. I should have gone back to Hinamizawa earlier. That's why Oyashiro-sama came to put his curse on me. He gave me a chance. He gave me a chance to pay for my sin of leaving Hinamizawa. Dad, listen. Oyashiro-sama is going to help us. Let's go back to Hinamizawa. Hinamizawa is the place where we must live. Don't. Not only me, but you might get cursed too. So let's go back to Hinamizawa. That's the place, the only place where we can live. Need to hurry. Need to hurry or Oyashiro-sama's power will fade away and my body will be eaten by maggots. Oh no, Oyashiro-sama is following me. He's telling me to hurry. Have a good night, Samuses. Take care. He follows me everywhere and keeps telling me to hurry. Keeps apologizing to me for putting his curse on me. He follows me everywhere and keeps apologizing. Telling you the truth, I am. Why can't anybody see it? Why can't they see the maggots or Oyashiro-sama? Everybody's trying to fool me. I know they can see them too. No, please stop. I don't want to get another shot. I was breathing hard and Mio-san was holding my shoulders. I feel that the terrible memory I'd been trying to forget was awakening. The doctors told me that the memory was just my delusion. They told me that since I blamed myself for the divorce, I, subconsciously, had a desire to blame someone else for it. And I, subconsciously, connected the desire to the folktale of Oyashiro-sama that I read when I was little. I got drug treatment, received counseling, and waited. I gradually got better, and that proved the things I saw were just a hallucination. The doctors asked my father to consider moving to Hinamizawa if possible. Fortunately, he wanted to change his living environment to heal his pain from divorce as well. So he came back to Hinamizawa. After we came back to Hinamizawa, I felt it. I felt it in my bones that this was the place we should live. I also felt Oyashiro-sama's blessing. I definitely felt it. I felt the curse of Oyashiro-sama starting to break. I was free. When I moved here, I went to the clinic in Ogura for a while. The doctor gave me the same poisonous-looking pills, and I kept taking them for a while. The terrible memory gradually became unclear. Whenever I tried to remember it, I could only remember the strong side effect of the pills. It made me dizzy, so I regained my peace. Then I changed my name, Rena. The reason was because my name reminded me of those bad memories. I didn't want to have anything icky in my life anymore. So I came up with the idea of taking icky things out. I took the I of icky out from my name Rena. Only Rei and Na left. How Rena was born. And I liked that. When I was introduced to my classmates, I told them to call me Rena. Since then, that has been my name. I'm living my new life as Rena. I cut away all the sad things that happened when I was Rena. My father still calls me Rena, but I don't feel bad as long as it was just my father and my relatives. But then Rena came into my life one day, and she called me Rena. As she called me Rena, those colored lights started flickering again. I should stop. I should forget about it. The lights were still flickering.
すみません。私、だいぶ取り乱してました。
小声で何かつぶやいてたわね。落ち着いたならよかったわ。
Judging by Miyo-san's reaction, I wasn't panicking as badly as I thought I was. But I probably had those panicked hallucinations several times. If I started screaming and yelling like I once did, they'd take me away to a hospital again for sure.
あの異常な中で確かにお社様に会ったんです。もちろん不気味な何かも。信じられませんよね。
Miyo-san smiled, looking a little confused. I didn't blame her. I didn't expect her to believe it. I'm sure it was just a strange memory I created for myself in my hallucinations. I can't believe I can't trust myself. That's the worst feeling of all.
レナちゃん、まず一つ安心してほしいの。
はい。
レナちゃんが怖がっているたたり、つまり血の中にいたという変なもの。それはお社様が言うにはHinamizawaにいる限りは大丈夫なんでしょ？
ええ、そう言ってました。
なら怯えることはないじゃない。安心して。あなたは今Hinamizawaにいる。まあこの図書館は沖宮だけど、このくらいの距離ならお社様も許してくれるわね。血管の内側に何かが騒いでいるなんて感じないでしょ？
それは、はい。
だから安心して。あなたは今お社様の戒律をちゃんと守ってる。だから何も恐れなくていいの。だってそうでしょ？ね？
はい。はい。
I didn't know until then that she was such a warm-hearted person. I met many doctors and talked to them about this, but they always ignored me and didn't really listen. All they did was give me a shot of the drug I hated. On the other hand, Miyo-san didn't deny my story or the existence of Oyashiro-sama. The people in this village whispered behind her back that she's a little crazy, but she's actually a very kind person, I
レ
thought.
ナちゃん、私は今の話全部信じるわ。
ありがとうございます。そう言ってくれた人は初めてかもです。
それは私も同じよ。私の話をバカにしないでちゃんと聞いてくれた人はあなたが初めて。私たちいい友達になれそうね。
Miyo-san smiled, touching my head with hers.
なら私の秘蔵のファイルとスクラップも貸してあげるわね。本当に本当の門外不出。 私以外の誰にも見せる気がなかったんだけど、レナちゃんには特別に読ませてあげてもいい気がするわ。あなたならバカにしないでちゃんと読んでくれそうな気がするし。
Took a few scrapbooks out of her paper bag and handed them to me.
ぜひ読んで感想を聞かせてね。あるいはひょっとするとレナちゃんにしかわからないことなのかもしれない。
Mio-san was acting mysteriously. She smiled mischievously and put her index finger to her lips as a sign to keep it a
あと
secret.
このスクラップ帳と私がそういう研究しているのは内緒よ。
内緒ですか？はい、わかりました。
だってこんな研究をしているのが連中に知られたら消され
She laughed after she said that. They might erase her. That's what she said. She went missing. She left me her scrapbooks, but that's not all there is to it. It's the way Tomitaki-san died. Oishi-san said he committed suicide because of a state of excitation caused by using some kind of drug, but I know what really happened. I didn't tell Oishi-san about it. I don't think he'd believe me even if I told him. Without a doubt, Tomitaki-san died trying to get rid of the maggots. There's nothing other than the curse of Oyashiro-sama. To never leave Hinamizawa isn't the only rule of Oyashiro-sama. There are more. I might have broken one of them without knowing it. Oishi-san told me. Tomitaki-san was taking pictures with his camera flash on during the sacred ritual dance. Some people got mad at him for it. Did Oyashiro-sama put his curse on Tomitaki because he violated the sacred ritual dance? Might be for another reason. Anyway, he died of the curse of Oyashiro-sama without a doubt. Does that mean Oyashiro-sama put his curse on Mio-san too? I guess investigating the gods is the same as getting close to the gods. It's disrespecting them. Mio-san told me they might get rid of her if they found out about her investigation. By they, she meant humans. Plus, according to her theory, the three families are in a conspiracy to revive the faith of Oyashiro-sama. I can tell by the way Tomitaki-san died that it was the act of the curse. I'm certain about that because I experienced the curse myself. At first glance, that seemed incompatible with those conspiracy theories about human beings. I remembered that Oishi-san told me about something about some kind of drug that can make a person commit suicide. Do the three families have a secret drug that can cause the curse of Oyashiro-sama? Impossible. Plus, I didn't get any shots of a suspicious drug like that. I had a normal life in Ibaraki. I wasn't involved with the Sonzaki family or the Kimiyoshi family. Oishi-san asked me a favor, asked me to tell him secretly if I saw or heard anything suspicious. About Mi-chan, Riki-chan, or anybody in the village. Mio-san believed my story about Oyashiro-sama. Now she's gone. Tomitaki-san died by doing the same thing I did. Oh no. I don't want to get involved with the curse of Oyashiro-sama. Is this a conspiracy of a group of fanatical cult members, or is it the curse of Oyashiro-sama? Everything just a set of coincidences? Maybe it's a mixture of a conspiracy and the curse. I don't know. Is it the work of humans, a curse, or a coincidence? Even the light of the sunset was making me feel dizzy. When did the light of Hinamizawa get so mean? Mio-san told me to keep her investigation secret. I have her top secret scrapbooks. They might hold the truth about everything. I realized that I got scared all of a sudden. I might end up the same way as Mio-san because I have her scrapbooks. It's a conspiracy, I'll be erased. It's the curse, I'll be cursed. I should burn the scrapbooks, it's the safest thing to do. Mio-san believed my story. Mio-san listened to me without laughing. I'd feel wrong to burn them without taking a look. It's a conspiracy, I have to expose it. It's the curse, I'll have to break it. I shouldn't run away, I should fight. I decided to fight to seize my happiness. I shouldn't give in to misfortunes. I have to fight. I'm gonna get rid of all the things that are trying to ruin my peaceful life. I'm gonna read her scrapbooks when I get home. I started walking faster. Oh, I've not finished that. So that almost entirely coincides with when Keiichi and her talk at the library. It's more of, I guess, an informational session with Keiichi because he doesn't know all the background of all the murders. Other than that, it's basically the same thing, and of course, like Rena's backstory is new on that. We have a lunch takeout list. Attention. Kuroda Mental Clinic. Hello. Get straight to the point. We can assume that this is an acute case of post-traumatic stress disorder. The patient is subject to tremendous stress because of her parents' sudden divorce, being forced to choose to live with either her mother or her father. Furthermore, the patient firmly believes that she was responsible for her parents' divorce, which further drives her to self-mutilation. The patient's largest shock stems from a sense of betrayal of her own household, which she believed was an absolute safe haven. Henceforth, there's a high possibility that the patient will resort to psychological defense measures to protect her family. For example, she might feel high disdain for any person of the opposite sex who approaches her father. She might feel uncomfortable about having other people in her home. She may also display eccentric behavior in order to keep people away from it. As an example of the latter, there are reported cases of patients subconsciously bringing home garbage. It's highly important that the patient remains in close communication with her father. By deepening the communication between the two of them, it will strengthen their family bond and loosen up her anxiety. Since the patient only shows signs of an acute syndrome in this case, there's a very good chance that she'll recover within 3 months with her father's support and proper medication. However, it's common for a patient who seems to have recovered to have a sudden reoccurrence, a flashback, even after 10 years. Her father is still fairly young, and there's a chance that he could remarry. However, seeing an unfamiliar member of the opposite sex through remarriage can trigger a flashback in the patient, which may lead to an avoidance behavior or hyper-awareness. Please explain this part thoroughly to the father in order for him to understand the recovery process. Should the father decide to remarry, it's recommended that he should hold off in telling the patient until she reaches the age where she's capable of living independently. Also, the cause of the patient's psychosomatic self-mutilating behavior, delusional parasitosis, seems to be its own culture-bound syndrome. The patient blindly believes that leaving her home village will cause a curse, and that this curse was the cause of her parents' divorce. You believe this is a... Wow, now you use subconscious. A subconscious defense mechanism to reduce her mental trauma by shifting the blame from herself to her village's curse. According to the patient's statement, the culture of her home village is extremely strict and exclusive. The patient believes that there is no way to be saved from the curse other than by going back to the village, as the curse will continue as long as she lives in her current environment. Through this, we see an inclination of schizophrenia. I believe the chances are high that the patient will continue to alter their perceived reality. Schizophrenia, a case where patients' personalities are reduced, causing altered perceptions of reality and delusions. Her delusion about the maggots dwelling in her blood is a perfect example, and also the cause of her psychosomatic self-mutilating behavior. When a delusion involves psychosomatic self-mutilating behavior, it's extremely dangerous. I highly recommend for the father to move back to the village if he is financially capable. Allowing her to live with relatives in the village might also work. Such a strong belief can induce symptoms such as self-mutilation, and there might be other cases similar to this one. Perhaps prior medical files that document similar culture-bound syndromes may be available at a large medical institution in her local area. It will then be possible to provide better and more accurate mental care for the patient by obtaining these case files. This B5 size letter was with a bunch of memos. The following is on the backside of the letter. 1 chukudon, 3 Shanghai-style gomoku yakisoba, 1 large fry rice. And there's the lunch menu. Alright. That was Chapter 7. We'll start Chapter 8, although I don't think we'll get into it a whole lot before it's time to stop for today, but we'll see how far we get. About homing ability and homesickness. If you interpret homing ability in a broad sense, you can say that most animals have a homing ability. Same with humans, we like to sleep, rest, and eat at a place where we feel comfortable, namely our homes. Your home is to you what nests are to animals. Therefore, we can say that humans have a homing ability as well. First of all, why do animals need nests? The answer is the same as for humans. Sleeping, resting, and eating are essential actions for survival. At the same time, those actions leave one defenseless as well. That's why you need a safe area where you can be defenseless. Everybody knows not having a safe area results in a high level of stress. You move an animal to a new environment, it naturally becomes stressed. You force a person to live in a foreign land where they aren't comfortable, they become greatly stressed as well. Everybody also knows this kind of stress is called homesickness. Japanese don't know much about homesickness. We defined it as a mental weakness, and we neglected to treat it for a long period of time. However, homesickness has a very long history. In Europe's Middle Ages, people believed that it wasn't a mental, but rather a physical disease. People also believe that out of everyone, the Swiss got the disease the most. The Swiss, you see, were known to be an ethnic group that worked away from the home in that area. They lived far away from their homes, there were no telephones at the time, so they couldn't even hear their families' voices for ages and ages. It's easy to imagine that the young Swiss workers got homesick while working in a strange land. These Swiss who got homesick wanted to go home, but they couldn't because of their jobs. Conflict made them weak physically and mentally. Some of them went crazy and tried to escape from their reality by committing suicide or running away. The Swiss at the time were very superstitious, and many folk remedies and occult-like treatments to prevent homesickness went around. Since going home was the only treatment, they must have called it a fatal disease. But it isn't really one, of course. Specifically, homesickness is a sign of that human homing instinct. Your brain desires to go back to your safe area, namely your home. First, your brain makes you remember the happy memories of your home, and it urges you to go home in a natural way. One reason stops you from achieving your desire, your brain starts sending out unnatural signals to your body. As a result, your body gets weak and makes it more difficult for you to live in a strange land. In the end, you have to bend to reason in order to achieve your desire to go home. So homesickness is born from our homing instincts. The stronger one's homing instincts is, the stronger their homesickness. The strength of that homing instincts varies from individual to individual, and depends on the environment in which those individuals live. Your home is safe and the environment you live in is dangerous, your homing instincts grow stronger. On the other hand, when the environment you live in is safer than your homing instincts become very weak. Safety isn't the only element that affects its strength, cultural aspects affect it too. Many customs demanding families to return home for major events varies with each region. The birthplace's culture also alters the strength of your homing instinct. Among those regions, the transcendence of Onikafuchi villagers believed to have an excessively strong homing instinct. People of Onikafuchi forbade their fellows from ever leaving. Many believe this was the effect of the elitism and sense of purity I already mentioned before. People today still strongly believe that Oyashiro-sama put his curse on you if you break this rule and abandon the village. This superstition can be interpreted as homesickness. If homesickness is directly proportional to one's homing instinct, then the exaggerated expression curse signify the strength of that homesickness, and also their homing instinct. I can assume that they hated the outside world and created an insular society precisely because of their powerful homing ability. Unfortunately, there is no way to measure the strength of the homing ability that the primitive people of Onikafuchi had. It was so strongly forbidden to leave the village that nobody left long enough to get homesick. However, after the Meiji era, things changed. The sacredness of Onikafuchi dwindled with the efforts of modernization, and young people started longing for city life, and some people were forced to leave the village to get a job. As a result, villagers started venturing outside the village borders. That was when the descendants of Onikafuchi realized how strong their homing ability was for the first time. Residents of Hinamizawa got extremely homesick. For a while, people started to call this homesickness the curse of Oyashiro-sama. It became rumored that a person who left a village to get a job in a strange land was cursed, that he went crazy and died. People who left the village started coming back to either it or the nearby town. Their homesickness and their homing ability were very strong because of their culture. It's reasonable to think that they were cultivated by the unique religion in Hinamizawa, namely the cult of Oyashiro-sama. The moment they were born, they were taught the rules of Oyashiro-sama. They must have felt guilty about leaving the village, subconsciously. As a result, they considered their homesickness to be the curse of Oyashiro-sama. I'm not sure if their homesickness got stronger because of the rules of Oyashiro-sama, or if they made the rules of Oyashiro-sama because their homesickness got stronger. I don't know which came first. I got tired of reading such small print and lay down on the floor on my back. The true identity of the curse of Oyashiro-sama is homesickness? Mio-san believed my story. She let me read these scrapbooks, that's why I expected to find something interesting. What it's saying is the answer to it all is homesickness. Many doctors told me so many times at counseling. I'm a little upset. The word homesickness can't explain the extraordinary experience I had. I saw Oyashiro-sama come down on me from a bright light in the bathroom. I saw the dusky red, nasty maggots come out of my blood vessels. The scrapbook doesn't explain any of that. I don't understand how Mio-san is going to explain the cloud of maggots. Maybe she didn't have any explanation of that to begin with. Is it just a delusion? I flipped through one of the other scrapbooks Mio-san let me borrow, looking for an explanation of the maggots I saw. Then, I found it. Had the exact title I was looking for. About maggots and the curse of Oyashiro-sama. Meiji era, a group of villagers were on their way back to Hinamizawa, and they started discussing a rumor about a weird disease. It said that maggots started crawling out of the wounds of a person who left Hinamizawa, and the maggots ate the person's body from the inside. The Shinto priest of the Furude shrine at that time explained that the weird disease was a sign of the curse of Oyashiro-sama. According to tradition, the Shinto priest showed the villagers an ancient scroll, and he told them that the story of the maggots had been passed down through the ages. This is what the scroll said. The world where the demons came from must be interpreted as the land of death. The demons in that land of death had to live their lives while being eaten by maggots. The villagers who are of the demon's blood had nothing to worry about as long as they lived in Hinamizawa under the protection of Oyashiro-sama. But once they left Hinamizawa, abandoning that protection, the maggots that had been sleeping in the blood of the demons would start to awaken, and they'd eat their bodies from the inside out. This maggot disease scared the villagers for a while, and they asked the shrine to provide them with protective talismans whenever they had to leave the village on business. This is interesting, as it's similar to the way homesickness was dealt with by the Swiss in the Middle Ages. After the war started, the delusion of the maggot disease faded away. They remained accustomed to send talismans to families that lived away from Hinamizawa. The talismans had the word maggot on them. The most interesting part about all this is the residents of Hinamizawa didn't know about the maggot disease until the rumors began. I thought that their subconscious worship made those people think of homesickness as a curse. This is a case of previously unknown maggot disease directly contradicted the research I had done so far. Natural to think that the group of people who were on their way back from the village were lost in a mass delusion because they strongly believed in the curse. That Shinto priests took advantage of their state of panic to instill a deeper faith in them. I'm not convinced it was a mere coincidence that this mass delusion matched the story in the old picture scroll. I wonder if it's possible to see maggots in a wound without having the prerequisite knowledge when a person is cursed by Oyashiro-sama. I wish Oyashiro-sama would put his curse on somebody I could study. I'd love to see those maggots coming out of someone. I felt as if Mio-san was here and making that request of me. I remember, when she gave me the scrapbook, she said that I might be the only one who could understand them. It felt good just for a moment, because I found out that the maggots weren't a delusion. At the same time, it destroyed my excuse that it was a delusion. The maggots weren't a delusion. They were there. All of a sudden, my wrists, elbows, inner thighs, and neck started itching. I felt the urge to cut open a blood vessel, but I quietly held it down. I remember that Mio-san looked very serious when I talked about the maggots. She must have thought it was creepy. So did I. While I was crying, because nobody believed me, a part of me didn't want to believe that my body was filled with those creepy things. A part of me wanted to believe it was still a delusion. Now I know it wasn't. It wasn't a delusion. There are some people that have the exact same experience. Maggots in the demon's blood will awaken when you lose the protection of Oyashiro-sama. In other words, they may not awaken under the protection of Oyashiro-sama. All the villagers still have the maggots in them without knowing it. People of the demon's blood are people who have creepy maggots in their bodies. I try not to jump to conclusions and flip the pages again. Subconsciously look for something related to maggots. Oh, about parasites and control of the host. Maggot disease made me think about something. It's possible to say that the extremely strong homesickness of Hinamizawa was an infectious disease caused by some kind of parasite. I'm not trying to connect the maggots they saw with parasites. I'm just trying to think about the possibility that their culture, their religion, might be associated with an infectious disease. Many infectious diseases are caused unintentionally by parasites. Parasite's host is literally its home. It wants to live within the host body for as long as it can. The best way to do that is to coexist with the host without the host knowing it. But some parasites try to control their hosts and use them for prosperity. For example, some parasites have the ability to control their hosts in order to force them to be eaten by a superior host. A typical example is the Dicrocolium dentriticrum. It uses snails or ants as intermediate hosts and forces them to move up to the upper side of vegetation so that it's easier for a superior host to consume it. One parasite that controls more complicated animals is called a Toxoplasma gondii. It uses mice as an intermediate host, with the superior host being cats. This parasite makes a mouse lose its fear of cats in order to increase its chance of getting eaten. The parasite can live within a cat instead. There are parasites that choose hosts at random. The rabies virus is commonly known for that. It lives and breeds in the brain of the host, moves into the host's saliva through its salivary glands. It makes the host extremely aggressive in order to make it bite things randomly, so that it in turn can move into other hosts through the saliva. That's what rabies does. Many parasites have a similar ability to control hosts to their benefit. Examples I use above are about parasites that move into other hosts to prosper. I think there must be some kind of parasite that controls its host in order to have a comfortable environment in which to live. I want to try to connect this theory to the abnormal homing ability and homesickness of the Onikafuchi residents. Let's say there's some kind of parasite that exists in Hinamizawa, and it lives within all the villagers' bodies. For the parasite, Hinamizawa is the most comfortable environment to live in. It gives the host a strong homing ability in order to make them stay in Hinamizawa. Furthermore, it causes the host to get homesick whenever they ignore this homing ability and try to leave. Parasites need hosts in which to live. It's convenient for them if their hosts build a community in the environment where it feels comfortable. This theory makes it easier for me to explain the mysteries I described earlier. Transcendents of Onikafuchi knew about the existence of this parasite. They knew that, as host to the parasite, they couldn't live outside of the village. That's why they created a culture and rules that prohibit contact with the outside world. It also explains why people acted so abnormal during the dam conflict. The demons that came out of the swamp in the legend of Oyashiro-sama can be interpreted as the mass spread of the parasite. The story about the demons attacking the village must be a metaphor for the behavior of the infected villagers who were controlled by the parasite. This theory is too crazy. I should have just laughed about it. But I felt bad for Mio-san, so I decided not to. Hinamizawa was controlled by a parasite? I could use that theory to explain how the maggots came out of me. I felt a little bit dizzy. I was so confused. Part of me thought that it was ridiculous. Another part of me thought it was more convincing than any curse. But Mio-san was probably erased because she wrote these scrapbooks. If so, the contents of these scrapbooks must be something that they can't ignore. They try to get all of her scrapbooks and consign them to oblivion. What if they notice some of her scrapbooks are missing? I felt a chill running through my spine. I have to keep it a secret that I have these scrapbooks. I'll have to try and understand more about their contents. I remember Mio-san told me that the three families are behind this series of mysterious deaths, and that they're trying to resurrect the cult of Oyashiro-sama. According to the theory I just read, the parasite must be trying to maintain the current environment of Hinamizawa. The healthiest environment for it is a completely closed village, just like the primitive Onikafuchi. It must be very comfortable for the parasite if no hosts go outside the village. I don't even like that the villagers often leave the village to go shopping. That means the parasite would try and goad the host into resurrecting the cult of Oyashiro-sama. I remember there was an article in the scrapbook saying that the demon's blood runs thickest in the three families. That would mean they have a larger amount of the parasite in them than the other villagers, and that they're under its control. The three families seem to be planning to bring the village back to the Onikafuchi era. Reviving the Watanagashi festival after the dam conflict can be interpreted as their desire to revive that faith. Thank you. That had started to fade away in the Meiji era. The three families, especially the Sonozaka family, have a great influence over the region and the public organizations. What's going on here? I thought this would be a poorly written theory, but the pieces fit together one after another. I've never played a jigsaw puzzle as crazy as this. I felt my brain swirling due to this absurd theory. Part of me thought this was ridiculous. Another part of me thought I might be about to expose an unbelievable truth. I tried to look into the center of it. Felt as if I was going to fall into the whirlpool and drown. I'll have to devote myself to reading more seriously. There must be some truth to this. Cause misfortune made my life miserable after I moved to Ibaraki. My people to find the truth, including the cause of my parents' divorce and my desperate behavior. Right then I heard a knock on the door, all of a sudden, scaring me. I think that knock is going to be where we call it for tonight.